Chapter 27. Everyone's jaws dropped in shock. What did she say? She actually dared to fight the golden python? This isn't just gutsy, she's crazy. Not to mention her, even a stage 3 warrior might not be able to subdue a 3rd grade golden python single-handedly. She really doesn't want her life. Chu Ning was also shocked and hurriedly pulled Chu Liuyue's sleeve. This golden python is ferocious, and it's more powerful than a typical 3rd grade fiend. Chu Liuyue smiled and glanced at him. Father, don't worry. Just 4 words miraculously calmed Chu Ning's uneasy and worried heart. She seemed to have a magical power that could make others unknowingly believe her words. If she said don't worry, then nothing would happen. Chu Ning's lips moved. He had already guessed that his daughter's Yuan meridian had been repaired, and she might have even started cultivating. However, how could she be a match for a 3rd grade fiend in such a short time? After repeatedly struggling in his heart, Chu Ning finally swallowed his words and nodded solemnly. Father believes you. Chu Liuyue's heart warmed. This feeling of being unconditionally trusted was the most reassuring. Rongzhen naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity and immediately raised her voice. You agreed to this yourself. No matter what the outcome is, it has nothing to do with me. Chu Liuyue mocked her in his heart. This kind of shameless behavior in public was indeed not something an ordinary person could do. Emperor Xiaofan hesitated for a moment and exchanged glances with the Empress. The Empress shook her head lightly and said in an extremely soft voice, Your Majesty, this matter concerns the royal family's reputation. Chu quickly scanned his surroundings. Can't you just teach her a lesson publicly and order someone to protect her? As he revealed a playful smile. Emperor Xiaofan deeply agreed and specially sent a few guards by the side to immediately save Chu Liuyue once they discovered that something was wrong. Its status was respected. Even so, even in a place like the imperial city of it, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, courting death, it still occupied a large area. Rongzhen smiled delightedly and turned to return to her seat, but she was stopped by Chu Liuyue. A black crystal tablet stood in front of the door. It was shaped like a long sword that had fallen from the sky and pierced the ground. Liuyue is very touched that the 4th princess gave me such a big gift, so I've prepared a gift in return for you priceless. Let alone the things inside the academy. 4th princess. In front of the door was a spacious square made of white jade. You're just a fine. That was you just have to deliver it to me later. What kind of good things could a good-for-nothing place they used to aristocratic family give out? However, Chu Liuyue was here to take the exam. She walked to Rongzhen's side and proudly blinked her eyes. There was only a small table in front of the middle-aged slightly, and he gave her an affirmative look before quickly hiding his expression. Clearly, only Chu represented and the golden python trapped in the huge black cage. It seemed like they did not intend to give Chu Liuyue a chance to take the exam and slowly walked in front of the golden python. Chu Liuyue bowed and asked, one man and one beast, thank you, facing each other. Thank you, senior. You overestimate yourself. May I know your name? Chu Xianmin felt the middle-aged man was originally very displeased with Chu Liuyue. She looked at Bai Chen and he was a good for nothing. There were plenty of people who wanted to take care of Chu Liuyue Academy. Everyone unconsciously quieted down, and since his magic golden python had a ferocious reject body. In addition, who did not know that really worked hard at her own strength to subdue it. He originally had something important to do used a group attack. He was sent to take Chu Liuyue's exam at the last moment. This black wooden box, he was depressed, did not treat Chu Liuyue well, and this golden python he had even prepared the exam. According to the differences in the 3 exams, it was even more dangerous than ordinary golden python. He sneered in his heart. Ordinary people couldn't without a will wanted to teach everything else. If the examinees wanted to get the exam, it was useless to curry favor. However, they had to open the black wooden box in place today. And this was the first knowing that Chu Liuyue would most likely come tonight. Nodded and ordered someone to bring it over. She took a step forward and directly read, but it doesn't seem to be open today. Chu Liuyue took one look and everyone's faces more or less revealed Bai Chen looked at her mockingly as if they were waiting to see a joke. Do you know that the reason why the golden pythons have their exams on the public square is because there were all sorts of fights during their exams? Its eyes were filled with hostility, and the fluctuations produced by this would all be calmed by the array formation on the square. Could be heard. Please lend me a sword. That black wooden box the guard was stunned, and when the surrounding people heard this, they burst into laughter. The air seemed to freeze. Exactly. Just give it to her. She even froze. Only then did the guard remove the sword from his waist, and Chu had already picked up a piece of paper from the black wooden box. She doesn't even have a complete sword and quickly become a stage 3 warrior. The blade was too heavy not to become a stage 3 warrior. Can't you see that he doesn't want the Tian Lu Academy only giving her a chance because of his majesty. It seems like he has some become a stage 3 warrior and such a young age will have another Yuan meridian is incomplete. And Bai Chen didn't have time to hear about how Chu Luyue opened the black wooden box. That's true. When he saw the exam, he probably wants a sword to give himself. He instantly laughed out loud. Chu Luyue ignored them and took half a step back. He held the sword tightly from both hands and raised it high. You'll pass if you reach the stage 3 warrior. He harshly slashed it down. But clang! I remember that you lack in the blink of an eye, and the chains on the cage broke with a loud sound. The crowd immediately roared with laughter. What is he trying to do? There might be hope. Before they could figure it out, Chu Luyue might not already lifted it in her lifetime, and the cage's door instantly opened. Some people even hissed. The golden python realized that the cage that locked it up had yourself, and it immediately rushed out. Its huge head rushed toward Chu Luyue without hesitation. Wait! It opened its mouth and revealed its sharp fangs. Senior Bai Chen, once my ability reaches the stage 3 warrior realm, they would be injured. Will I pass? Its body was huge, and in comparison, suspected that he had heard looked especially thin and weak. Chu Luyue asked again. It was as if the golden python if I can defeat a stage 3 warrior, will you say that I've won? Chu Luyue didn't retreat. Bai Chen hesitated for a moment. Instead, before nodding. He stepped forward and used the momentum to jump forward. But, can you do it? At the same time, Chu Luyue stabbed his sword up slightly. It went straight for the golden python's abdomen. Bai Chen made up his mind. The scales on its body were very hard, and it was difficult to pierce through them with normal swords. I'll suppress my ability to a stage 3 warrior, which was slightly softer. If you can take 3 moves as a breakthrough point, you'll pass. The golden python waved his long sleeves, and a slight buzzing sound came from the square. It immediately swung its tail and harshly suddenly raised his chi and leaped into the air. Its physical strength was very strong. Like a soaring eagle, landed, he flew over hundreds of probably die on the spot and landed precisely in the middle of the square. Chu Luyue's feet moved quickly, and for some reason, by step, he narrowly avoided the attack. He circled to the golden python's side. Bai Chen didn't hesitate to stab at its body. Without another word, he changed his palm into a fist and attacked. The long sword slashed across the hard scales, making an ear-piercing sound. His speed was extremely fast, however, and in the blink of an eye, a faint white he was already in front of Chu Luyue. There wasn't even a tyrannical wind from his fist whistled as a terrifying force broke through the air. Brother, this Chu Luyue in the blink of an eye, stupid. His fist was only an arm's length away from Chu Luyue. What? By suppressing his ability to a stage 3 warrior she saw the situation. He didn't need to use any martial techniques. Chu Luyue's attack completely. He could just use his physical strength to crush Chu Luyue. It crazily swung its tail, with this punch, trying to entangle Chu Luyue. Chu Luyue's eyes reflected the suddenly let go of the sword hilt that was flying towards its body. She stood there with her back straight, and in the eyes of actually rushed directly onto the golden python's head. In Bai Chen's eyes, she held the golden python's neck with one hand, and with the other, when he thought she quickly took off the only hairpin on her head, the girl in front of him suddenly into the golden python's eyes. It was unknown how its greatest weakness was its eyes, but she actually swiftly and skillfully avoided the blood splattered everywhere. Bai Chen was instantly stunned when he saw let out a painful and angry hiss. The next moment, he suddenly felt a chill down his spine, directly plucked out its eyeball. A biting cold murderous intent python violently shook its body, but it couldn't do anything. He subconsciously circulated his force in the blink and turned around to attack. The second eyeball was also plucked out. The golden python's body gradually went limp. A faint blue fireball suddenly exploded. Only then did Chu Luyue jump down, there was no one pick up the sword on the ground, Bai Chen and directly stab it into the bloody hole. Realization. A ruthless slash. As expected, he saw Chu Luyue. The entire golden python was cut open and killed by her just like that. Looked at him with a smile. Ah. Senior Bai Chen, this bloody scene caused some of the delicate noblewomen power of a stage 3 warrior. However, Chu Luyue's expression didn't change. She directly reached her hand into the hole and pulled out a green pearl. Everyone looked at each other and it took a while to react to what had just happened. When Bai Chen was testing walked towards the frozen he actually used a skill that could only be used by a stage 3 warrior pearl of essence. This also meant that, as Chapter 28 had said, he did not suppress his strength to that of a stage 3 warrior. Chu Luyue. What? Her face and hands were covered in blood, Bai Chen's but her expression was calm and he felt extremely embarrassed. The golden python's corpse originally was right behind this move would be able to get rid of Chu Liyue directly. It was as if she was a demon that he did not control it well and Rongzhen suddenly shuddered. It was really embarrassing to make such a low-level mistake in front of so many people. Is not as easy to bully as she seems. What exactly happened just now? Chu Liyue extended her hand. Frowned and stared intently at Chu Liyue. The golden python's he was a stage 5 warrior good for nourishing the body. One of the strongest warriors in the entire country. Yao Chen. The pearl of essence was still covered in sticky red blood in the past, and the sweet, never made fishy such a smell was almost nauseating. He remembered very clearly that he had sensed a frightening murderous intent, but she had to accept Chu Liyue's body early gift, which was why he instinctively used his true abilities. Just as she was in a dilemma. However, Chu Liyue was a good-for-nothing man. Take good care of such a strong pressure and threat to him. As soon as he finished speaking, the guard at the side immediately stepped forward, Chu Liyue intending to take the pill as he wanted to burn a hole in her body. However, Chu Liyue avoided the guard's hand and said that as long as I can withstand 3 moves from you, I originally thought that since my name was written on the title deed, your first move was mine and I could do whatever I wanted with it. However, I didn't expect the fourth princess to fly into a rage as though what had just happened did not affect her. Take this as my apology to your majesty. This question made Bai Chen's expression turn even uglier. Unfortunately, the fourth princess although he doesn't seem to like this gift, he had to admit that Chu Liyue was able to force him to use his strength. Rongzhen's heart to a certain extent. This was enough to prove something. Although she was willful and spoiled, there was definitely something fishy about this young girl. Chu Liyue wanted her to accept it. There was a short moment of silence outside the venue. If she didn't accept it, she would look very mean. After a moment she pressured Chu Liyue in a deep voice. If you can take this move of mine head on, there were so many people watching I will immediately consider you as a qualified father and imperial mother. Then, he moved quickly. It was fine if she damaged her reputation since she had always been like this. The corners of Chu Liyue's mouth twitched ever so slightly. She couldn't afford to be criticized for implicating the royal family. Not only did Bai Chen ask her to deal with his moves, she was able to please the emperor and empress largely because she knew her limits. Anyone would know that this was a little too much. Of course, even if he suppressed his strength to that of a rank 3 warrior, Rongzhen gritted her teeth. He was still a rank 5 warrior, and the power he displayed was stronger than most rank 3 the pearl of essence. Even a true rank 3 warrior might not be able to take this move head on. She originally thought that she would be able to teach this Bai Chen was already right in front of him, but who would have thought that she would end up being checkmated? A fierce fist went straight for his face. She stared at Chu Liyue with a deadly gaze and gritted her teeth. The first time he had attacked. Chu, it's over. Flow. Chu Liyue didn't leave any face for Bai Chen. Very well. He's definitely going to be taught a lesson. You. I'm afraid that a few of Chu Liyue's bones will be broken by this punch. Thank you for your concern, Princess. TSK, so what? Rongzhen's anger was stuck in her chest, and it was about to explode. Wasn't it Chu Liyue, that trash? Enough. Who asked for it? Rongzhen reminded her. As a good-for-nothing, Rongzhen should obediently curl up in a corner and stop daydreaming. Rongzhen glanced at her in low voices as if they could already see the scene of Chu Liyue being defeated. It's so dirty. What do you think it looks like? Under the gaze of countless pairs of eyes, as soon as he finished speaking, standing in the middle of the square suddenly understood. For a moment. She didn't make any extra movement to be talking about the fourth princess. She just staggered but he was actually mocking Chu Liyue into a fist and punched the fourth princess's hands were only stained with a little from blood. The crowd. But Chu Liyue had just fought with the golden python, chose to face it and now his hands even were almost completely covered in blood. Bang! Wasn't this filthy? A dull sound of impact was heard. Whispered laughter came from all over the hall. Collided fiercely. Everyone's gazes fell on her with mockery and ridicule. Fist was only half the size in this brightly lit Ming Chui palace. When everyone was bright and beautiful, Chu Liyue looked even more slender and weak. She was the only one people couldn't help but hold their breaths because she had pulled out the bones in Chu Liyue's. Her hair was a little messy and scattered, right? She looked so disheveled. In the next moment, this was the scene that Rong's body trembled and blood oozed out from the corner of her mouth. A thin girl was standing in the middle of the hall. Just when they thought that everything was over, they saw that Bai Chen's face and the mangled corpse of a golden python. Instead, the ground was covered in blood. He widened his eyes and looked at Chu Liyue as if he was looking at a freak. Her body was thin, but her back was straight like a pine tree. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. No matter how strong the wind was, in his heart, a huge wave of emotions had already surged. His gentle and clear eyes instantly turned dark and cold. Was far beyond his imagination. But it was only for a moment before he regained his usual gentle expression. Definitely wouldn't be able to take this punch. Has arrived. However, this voice she was standing in the same spot and didn't even take a step back. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Moreover, he could clearly feel that Chu Liyue's fist was much harder than he had imagined. Why did he come? He secretly gritted his teeth in the prince's residence with the excuse of being sick for a month after returning to the ground under Chu Liuyue's feet suddenly cracked open. He had never attended any banquets. Several cracks quickly spread out. Chu Liuyue's heart jumped and he unconsciously didn't move. A somewhat familiar figure appeared at the door of immense pressure at this moment. The octagonal glass palace contained in Bai Chen's fist was definitely not something an ordinary stage 3 warrior could display. Slender figure. Although this body had already nurtured her Yuan meridian, it was midsummer, but he was still wearing the white fox cloak. The difference between the two of them was so many levels. He walked into the hall, wasn't so easy, and his face gradually became clear. Her internal organs, although it was not the first time that Chu Liuyue saw this force, he still could not help but be next moment. His sword-like eyebrows slanted to his temples, head-on. His nose was high, she looked at Phoenix's eyes were deep. Her black jade-like eyes, the lights were bright, but they were not as dazzling as the thousands of stars in his eyes. Senior Bai Chen, it seemed that can you consider it as me going people would be willing to fall in love with him. Bai Chen gritted his teeth under the cloak, but in the end, he was wearing a snow-white brocade robe with golden patterns embroidered on the cuffs and hem. As he walked, he looked like flowing moonlight. Chapter 39. When he appeared, Bai Chen's deep and powerful voice reverberated throughout the square. There was a bandit gentleman who was originally noisy crowd instantly quieted down. He was really elegant, at the square in shock, and as wondering if they had heard wrongly. Some noble ladies blushed and just stared at Wuxia with sparkling eyes. Passed. So this is after princely. A short moment of dead silence. I didn't expect him to be so good into an uproar. The last time he came back to the imperial capital was 3 years ago. Pass? I didn't expect him to be so handsome. She's not even a first-stage warrior, right? I'm afraid no one in the imperial capital can compare with him. Could she have been admitted to Tianlu Academy just like that? What's there to look at? Easy. At most, strange, he's just an idle prince. Chu Liuyue really took in the hall attack. Someone mumbled more carefully and raised his eyebrows. Some people slightly quieted down. It was no wonder that those people said so. That's right. Wuxia's lips were a little pale, as long as she took his attack head-on, Chu Liuyue would pass. At this moment, Wuxia suddenly did not retreat at all and took the attack head-on. Their eyes met. Could it be that Bai Chen narrowed her on purpose? The next moment, whispered uncertainly, walked directly to her covered his mouth in front of saying that. Everyone questioning Bai Chen in front of everyone was the same as questioning Tianlu Academy. What was he going to do? Bai Chen looked around solemnly. Was he going to settle accounts with her because she broke into the Jade Wave Lake last time? I know many people suspect that I went easy about this, but I dare to guarantee with my own reputation that there were no problems during the entire exam. Chu Liuyue suddenly understood what he Academy is the top academy. He was, and it has always been wipe the blood on her face. Chu Liuyue did when they first met suddenly appeared in her mind. Not only did he not go easy and gently wipe the blood on her face, increased the difficulty of the exam. He said, Miss Chu, even a true stage 3 warrior might not be able to pass the exam so smoothly. The situation this time was so similar. Did it? Chu Liuyue, although he looked down on her previously, since she had done thank you, he would naturally accept it. Bai Chen's final words had completely shut everyone's mouths. Everyone had different expressions. As a teacher of Tianlu, His Highness Prince Bai Chen was known for his irritable had already looked at Emperor Jiawen and bowed. Since even he admitted that please forgive me for being late, no one could say anything else. Then, he couldn't help but cough twice, Chu Liuyue looking like he had been sick for a long time. He never thought that Jiawen shook his head as if he didn't agree. Your body has been weak since you were young. You are a student of Tianlu Now that you've just returned to the imperial city, everyone was in an uproar. You should take care of yourself. She thought that she would be able to see Chu Liuyue make a fool of herself today. Wuxia smiled and glanced at Who knew that she would actually get into Tianlu How can I not come to my brother's birthday banquet? Those who could enter Tianlu Academy scoffed were all top-notch geniuses but he still in country Yaochen. Seventh Chu Liuyue was a good for nothing, yet he was able to enter. It's just a birthday banquet today. It was strange no matter how one thought if it affects your body. Chu Liuyue's red lips curled up. Wuxia readily accepted the advice and sat down. Perhaps I should address him as Teacher Bai Chen now. Then, he took off the cloak on his body and coughed a few times. He saw clearly that it seemed like this torment had already made him very uncomfortable. The crowd looked at each other full of calmness. This princely really doesn't seem that he had expected this result long ago. Some of the noble ladies looked disappointed. She was confident that she could pass. No matter how good-looking he is, he doesn't have much of a future. Bai Chen had previously thought that she and his majesty were just indulging in fantasy when they proposed to enter Tianlu Academy. Didn't seem to care about all this. However, it was clear that she had a card up her sleeve. He greeted the few people beside him and getting into Tianlu Academy is just the beginning. He looked like a gentle and modest gentleman. There's nothing to be proud of. Rongjin didn't have much of an impression that there are many talents in the academy. But when she saw him hand Chu Luyue only those who can stand out in the academy can become a true powerhouse. She chuckled as her gaze felt that he had lost Rongxiu and Chu Luyue. Although Chu Luyue had already passed the exam, you seemed to take care of still didn't look happy a lot. In fact, could it be that he still guys already know each other? This was because he hadn't felt any force fluctuations. I've only returned to the Imperial City for less than a month, and it's my first time out today. He didn't know what method she had used to barely pass the test just now. However, still with an incomplete Yuan Meridian, then it was impossible for her to become a true cultivator. Rongxiu paused for a moment. She might be able to reach the ability of a stage 3 warrior. I just feel that it's not good to see blood today at my brother's birthday banquet. However, it was impossible for her to advance any further. I came late. This Chu Luyue. I don't know what happened earlier. Even if she entered Tianlu Academy, why did this place become like this? He was afraid that she would achieve nothing. He poured himself a cup of tea and asked casually. He waved his sleeves and turned to leave. First, Miss Chu, teacher Bai Chen, engaged. Please wait. Who dares to treat the future crown princess like this at the crown prince's birthday banquet? Bai Chen turned to look at her impatiently. Rongjin choked. Is there anything else? Rongjin's face since you've already passed the exam, someone will bring you into the academy accusing him of allowing others to bully Chu. Shook her head. Seeing that the situation was not right, the Empress immediately said warmly, Princely, you misunderstood. What do you mean? Rongjin felt like they were old friends and pointed at the two black wooden boxes so she decided to give the golden python not far away. I was just aiming still 2 more exams. Bai Chen's expression turned even colder. Did you not understand the rules just now? Wasn't first Miss Chu born with a damaged Yuan Meridian and unable to cultivate? You only need to pass one of them. Then how can he tame the golden python? Now that Chu Luyue had already passed the warrior exam, his seemingly puzzled question made the Empress and the others extremely embarrassed. Chu Luyue frowned. Could it be he felt that one person can only take one exam on the spot? You don't understand. However, looking at his stunned expression through his words, it seemed that he really did ask this question subconsciously. Wait, Chu Luyue meant, besides, teacher Bai Chen, as far as I know about the Academy's entrance exam rules don't seem to have any restrictions in this area. Couldn't tell what he was thinking. So he didn't respond. Bai Chen didn't speak for a while. Rongjin couldn't help the reason why there were 3 exams. She was the one who made a mistake. In the Black Tortoise mainland were divided. She sold the title deed to brother crown princes. Different people had different to someone else. Some people might not be talented enough on the path of a warrior, but they were shockingly talented in other aspects. He rubbed his teacup as either a Xian master or a heavenly doctor. How could she sell? There were very few of these. There was dead silence in the main hall. Celestial physician, of course, in particular, everyone knew more than Chu Luyue's name was on the title deed. So, you mean, however, as long as she had a brain, feeling inexplicably nervous, that the crown prince valued this hunting ground very much. Step forward with a calm expression. She sold it and made the crown prince pay a huge sum of money. The crown prince was furious. 40. It was obvious that he wanted to deal with her today. Everyone looked at Chu Luyue. How could a good-for-nothing from the Chu family be qualified to attend such a palace banquet? She wants to take everyone the was well aware of this, and even the Empress had tacitly agreed. All 3 exams? However, for someone of entire country status to say it out loud, there were only a few people who could pass all 3 exams at the same time. Chu Luyue used the white handkerchief to slowly wipe the blood off her hands and curved her lips. Are you really going to take the remaining 2 exams? She wouldn't let go of this opportunity. Chu Luyue nodded. Your Highness, was silent for a moment before he clenched his teeth. Even though this title deed is in my name, the crown prince and I aren't officially engaged yet. I want to see what tricks you can come up with. It's indeed my fault for selling the title deed for Chu Luyue to personally open the remaining 2 black wooden boxes. Already promised that as long as I tame this golden python and open the middle box, this matter will be written off. There was also a piece of paper and a chessboard inside. Rongjin widened on the chessboard. The black and white chess pieces had already been placed. Don't make irresponsible remarks. Chu Luyue only took one look and sensed that the chess pieces on the chessboard were placed according to a certain pattern. Isn't that what you meant? Forming a formation. Emperor Xiaofan didn't expect Chu Luyue to be so direct and was instantly embarrassed. You have to solve this puzzle within 2 hours. Waved his hands. It's just in the eyes of ordinary people. 2 hours was too long to solve the golden python, but in reality, the agreement, this was completely different from ordinary chess games. Zhen, don't mention the black and white chess pieces more or less. This wasn't just a warning to Rongjin. it was also
they
a
were
warning
placed
to
in
everyone
different
present.
positions and influenced each
Rong
other,
Zhen was
naturally
angry,
forming
but
an
she could only
extremely
agree
complicated
reluctantly
puzzle.
when she saw Emperor
If
Jiaowen's
one wanted to
serious
solve
gaze.
this puzzle, they had to be able to keenly sense the
Thank
flow
you,
of the
Your
heaven and earth
Majesty.
force. However,
Just this
Chu
point
Liyue
alone
didn't
was enough
intend
to
to
stop
let it
most
go just
people.
like that. Some people
She sighed
could barely
softly
sense
and
it,
showed a
but they
forbearing
couldn't clearly
expression.
discern the pattern within.
Your Majesty,
much less find
Liu
a way
knows
to
that
solve
you
this
personally
puzzle.
bestowed this title
Therefore,
back then.
only those
so
who
he
truly
naturally
had the
treasures
talent
it.
and potential to become
If
a
he wasn't
master
forced
could
into a
pass
corner,
this round.
Liu Yu would never sell this
Bai
title
Chen
deed.
also walked over, and
Emperor
his gaze
Xiaofan
was
was
on Chu
stunned.
Liyue for a moment.
Why?
You have to take out the chessboard.
Is there something else going on?
The exam time was
Chu
2
Liyue
hours.
took a deep breath.
It would be convenient
Your
for students
Majesty,
to take out
you
the
don't
chessboard. Because
However,
I was born
Chu
with a
Liyue
damaged
shook her
essence
head and
meridian,
rejected him.
and my father was seriously
Thank you
injured
for
a
your
few years
reminder,
ago.
Teacher
We didn't
Bai
have a
Chen,
good life,
but there's no need.
Helpless,
Bai
we could
Chen
only
paused
sell the
and
title
sneered
deed to
inwardly.
raise some money to maintain
Such
our
a
lives.
straightforward rejection meant that
Chu
he knew
Liyue
that he
wouldn't be able to decipher
What
it
nonsense
and was
are you
going to give
talking
up.
about?
He
snorted.
First elder immediately stood
Since
up
you
and
don't have
hollered
the
angrily.
ability, don't force yourself.
Was she trying to drag the entire
How can it be
Chu
so
clan
easy
into
to
this?
become a mystic master?
Emperor Jiawen glanced
As he
at
spoke,
First Elder
he was about to
unhappily.
put away the black wooden
Let
box.
her speak. Chu
First
Liyue
Elder
pursed
was
her
angry,
lips when she
but he
heard
didn't
this.
dare to casually interrupt.
Was Bai Chen certain that she would
My
not
father
be able
and
to
I
pass
once
and
asked the
thought
crown
that she was
prince
going
for
to
help,
give up,
but
we couldn't
Teacher
even
Bai
see
Chen,
him. Please wait. Before selling the title
Bai Chen
deed,
looked at her
I wanted to
impatiently.
discuss it with the crown prince.
What else was she
but I was
trying to
rejected
do?
at the door. Chu Liyue had
So,
already picked up a black
Rong
piece and
Jin's
placed it
face
on the
turned
chessboard
pale.
without hesitation. This Chu Liyue really
Ha.
knows how to make things up. Liu Yu
chess
really had
piece
no
landed
choice
on the
but to
chessboard,
do this, making a soft sound.
Your Majesty, please
Just
understand.
as Bai Chen was about to scold
Chu
him,
Liyue
he
as
suddenly
words were
felt
half
a subtle
true,
fluctuation,
but the others
on
in
the
the
hall were
chessboard.
inclined to believe her.
He subconsciously looked
Almost
over
everyone
and saw
in
that
the
the
black
Imperial
and
City
white
knew a
chess
little
pieces
about
on
the
the
kind of
chessboard
life
seemed to be
Chu Liyue
controlled
and her
by an
father were
invisible
living.
force. It was
They
even
flew
more
up and
likely that the
accurately
crown
landed in
prince
the
had
chess
refused to
jars
let
at
her
her
side.
end.
The crown
Crackle.
prince hated her to the core.
The sound of
so
the
wasn't
chess
it normal
pieces
for
hitting
him to
each
do
other
this?
was extremely crisp.
Looking
But
at
it was
it
like
this
a
way,
sudden clap
Chu
of
Liyue
thunder that
didn't do
exploded
anything
in
wrong.
everyone's minds.
Emperor Jiawen looked at Rong
Chu
Jin
Liyue
sternly.
actually managed to decipher
Crown
this
Prince,
puzzle.
even though you put in a
Bai
lot of
Chen
effort
was
into the
instantly
hunting ground
stunned,
and could not
if it
return
weren't
for
for
the
the
fact
senses
that you
for a
didn't
long
care about
time.
Liu Yu for so many years.
How long
I
did
think she
Chu
wouldn't
Liyue
have done
take
this.
just now?
If I remember
seemed
correctly,
like less than 15
her birthday
minutes.
is 2 days after yours,
Including the time she spent
At
talking
that
to
time,
him.
your
Chu
engagement
Liyue
only took a few glances
Rong
to
Jin's
decipher
heart
the
skipped
puzzle.
a beat.
Bai Chen
Emperor
was really
Jiawen
might
shocked
very
this
well
time.
let me fulfill the engagement.
He had been
with
at
Chu
Tianlu
Liyue to
Academy
save the
for
royal
many
family's
years
and had
face.
seen many mystic master
This
geniuses,
definitely won't do.
but he had never seen anyone
Thinking
pass
of
this
this,
round so
Rong
quickly.
Jin
suddenly stood up. To be able to do it so
Father,
quickly,
I have a
she
favor
either knew
to
the
ask of
answer
you.
beforehand or
He
had
pointed at Chu
unparalleled
Liyue.
talent. However, this chessboard was one of Tianlu
Chapter
Academy's
30.
treasures. Rong Jin
It could
originally
randomly
planned to
change
use
into
Chu
a different
Liyue's
game
private
during each
sale
exam.
of the hunting ground to make
Before
Emperor
opening
Jiawen
the
hate
black
Chu
wooden
Liyue
box,
and
even
dissolve
he
their
did not
marriage
know what it
agreement.
would be like.
However, this
He
meant
didn't
that
expect
Chu
things
Liyue
to
was
turn out
indeed
like
extremely
this.
talented as a
Chu
mystic
Liyue
master.
had
his reasons for selling
During
the
the
martial
title
artist
deed,
round,
and it was the
Bai
result
Chen
of
had
him
always
being
bullied
bullied
by
by
the
the
Chu
Chu
family
family and
relied on
himself.
some small tricks to pass.
There was no
because
way
he had
to
not
explain
sensed any
this,
force
so it was a waste
fluctuations
of
from
time
Chu
to dwell
Liyue's
on it.
body. Besides,
Otherwise,
things had
there was
already
really
reached
no
a
way to
stalemate,
explain how
and tonight's
caused
series
him
of
to feel
events were
such a
detrimental
strong
to the
sense of
royal
threat and
family's
even
reputation.
received
His attack head-on. He knew that his father
However,
definitely
everything
didn't want
in
to
front
see
of him
this.
now
made Bai Chen clearly
Thus,
realize
he had
that
to
Chu
cut the
Liyue
Gordian
was
knot.
indeed talented. He had to directly
At the very
propose to
least,
dissolve the
she had
marriage
the
agreement
top-notch
with
talent
Chu
to
Liyue
become a
and
mystic
draw a
master.
clear line between them. Teacher Bai Chen, even if
Is
others
this
would
considered a
criticize
pass?
him, it was better than making
Chu
his
Liyue
father
held a
unhappy
smile
with him.
at the corner of her mouth.
Emperor Jiawen's face
Her
darkened,
tone was as
and
calm
he didn't
as
say
ever,
anything.
as if
she did not realize how
The hall
shocking
was
her
so
talent
quiet
was.
that one could hear a pin drop.
However, Bai Chen could
Rong
not be
Jin
as calm
decided
as
to
her.
go all the way and continue.
It was as if huge waves had
Father,
been set off
I don't
in
have
his
any
heart.
feelings
for the Chu family's
because
big missy. He was also a mystic
Even
master.
if we
were to be together according to the
Tianlu
marriage
Academy
agreement,
students
we
would
wouldn't
usually
usually be
be
assigned to different teachers
Why don't
to
we dissolve
cultivate
the
after
entering the academy.
This is a good
It was
thing
even
for
more
both
so
of
for
us.
mystic masters and
Chu
celestial
Liyue looked
physicians
down
because
and
of
hid
their
the
own
contempt in
uniqueness.
his eyes.
Every
This
teacher
man
could be
really
considered
doesn't
to
have
be
any
an
sense of
individual.
responsibility.
There
and
were
he's
many
so
mystic
cunning.
master teachers in
He
Tian
clearly
Lu
thinks that
Academy,
I'm a good for
and they
nothing
were all
and isn't
competitive
worthy of
with
being
each
the
other.
crown prince, but he
They
made
especially
it sound
liked
so
to show
righteous.
off how amazing their
During
students
the many
were.
years that the
Bai
engagement
Chen
had
was
existed,
very sure
he
that
had never
Chu
mentioned
Liyue
the
was
cancellation
definitely a
of the
mystic
engagement.
master genius that was hard to come
Instead,
by in 100
he only
years.
brought it up now.
Chu Liyue waited for a naturally guessed why. When she saw that
He
Bai
was the
Chen did
crown
not
prince,
say anything,
but Chu
she could
Liyue
not
was
help
born a
but
good
call
for
out to
nothing.
him again.
If he had
Teacher
raised
Bai
this
Chen,
request earlier,
he would definitely be mocked for being
Bai
snobbish.
Chen suddenly returned to his
Chu
senses.
Liuyue's life in the Chu family was very tough, as if he was looking at a rare treasure. Let things slide. He rubbed his hands together,
he had long felt
and a fervent smile
wouldn't
appeared
even
on his
live
face.
to become of marriageable age
Coupled
at
with his
14.
originally stern and boorish
If she had
face,
died a long
it looked
time
very
ago,
strange.
then
he would have easily solved a huge problem. However, he didn't expect her to retaliate. 41. Faced with today's situation, he had to bring up the marriage agreement.
Little Luyu?
Emperor Jiaowen's
His face
eyes
was
were
filled
half
with
closed,
annoyance
and
just
the
now,
crowd could
but
guess
in the
his
blink
thoughts.
of an eye,
his attitude
"Have you thought
did a
it through?"
180-degree turn.
said Emperor Jiawen after
He
a while.
changed his attitude faster than flipping a book.
suddenly advised in a gentle voice.
Teacher Bai
Crown
Chen,
Prince,
you don't have
first
to be
Miss
so
Chu
polite.
is actually
How
quite
can
a
this
nice
be called
person.
being polite?
Didn't she just
Since
tame
you're
the golden
already a
python?
student of Tianlu Academy,
Although she doesn't
as a
have any
teacher,
origin
should
power
take
in her
care of
body,
you. It seems that she
Bai
does
Chen
have some
hurriedly
strength.
said.
As he
Jin's
spoke,
face
he
darkened.
carefully observed Chu
In
Liuyue's
fact,
expression
he was very
and secretly
shocked when Chu
regretted it.
Liyue killed the golden python.
How could he treat her
but
like
after
that
careful
before?
observation, he
Little
didn't
Liu
detect any
definitely did not
fluctuations
have a
of
good
origin
impression
power
of him.
from Chu Liyue.
If he had known
She
that
was
she
able
had
to
such
win
shocking
mainly
talent
because she
as
had
a
found a
Xian
golden
master,
python's
he would have
weakness and
definitely
attacked
treated
it
her
with
well.
all her might.
Thinking of this, he could
However,
not help but
this kind
curse
of
all
trick
18
could only be
generations
used
of
once
the
or
Chu
twice,
family in his
but
heart.
not more than once.
Loser? In the end, strength was the true source of confidence. She had
Could
no
it be
foresight
that Chu
and could not
Liyue could
recognize
suddenly
a true
recover
genius
after being missing a yuan
She
meridian
even
for more than
implicated
10
him.
years?
If he had
Thinking
not heard
of this,
those rumors,
Jin
he
said
would not
firmly,
have treated her
"I'm
like
not
that
going to
before.
give you a chance.
Little Liu,
I've thought it through."
Teacher's attitude
He was going
not
to
good
inherit
just
the
now.
throne in the future.
Please don't take it to
A
heart.
person like Chu Liyue would
Bai
only
Chen
be a
scratched
stain
his
on
head
his
and
record.
said embarrassedly.
Of course,
Chu
I'm willing
Liyue
to make
looked
up
at
for
him
the
in
harm
shock.
I've caused first Miss Chu.
Although Bai Chen looked embarrassed,
As he spoke,
his eyes were very
Jin
sincere.
looked at Chu Liyue.
He was sincerely
If you have any
apologizing.
conditions, feel free to
Chu
state them.
Liyue blinked. I'll do my best
This
to
person was
satisfy
really
them.
interesting.
Is he planning
It
to
was
kick
true
me
that
out
he
and
did
set
not
up
like
a
her
benevolent
before,
and righteous
and it was
monument
also
for
true
himself?
that he wanted to worm his way
How
into
could there
being
be
such
such
a
a
good
good
thing
now?
in the world?
Was this change
Chu
because
Liyue
of the
lifted
Xian
her
master
chin,
talent that
glanced
she
at
displayed just
Jin,
now,
and pursed her lips.
However, she had
Your
already
Highness,
tried her best
you.
to suppress it.
Actually,
That
I used to
endgame was
admire
extremely
you,
simple.
Xiao, who had just
She had
raised
started
his
learning
teacup,
formations
paused.
at the age of 4 and
Then,
could construct
he calmly
Xian
put down the
formations by
teacup
herself
and
at the
glanced
age
at the
of
girl
5.
in front of him.
She could not
Chu
even be
Liyue
bothered to
suddenly
look at
felt
such
a
a
chill at
formation.
the back of her head.
However,
Now
now
it
it seemed
seemed
frowned
like
as he
she
listened.
had to be more low-key.
Is Chu Liyue unwilling
Strength
to
is
break off the
respected.
engagement? Liu also
That's right.
knows this. No matter how
Teacher Bai
stupid
Chen,
she is,
you don't have to
she
take
knows
it to
how
heart.
precious the position of
Bai
crown
Chen's
princess
status
is.
was considered respectable.
Just a moment
but
ago,
he was sincere
she
enough to
purposely accused
apologize
me
to
of
her in
not
front
caring
of so
about
many
her and her
people.
father, but now
This made
she's
Chu
saying that
Liyue's
she's always
impression of
admired
him
me.
improve.
She's
Such a
indeed
person
greedy
was a
and
one-track
insatiable
mind.
person. Only
The
by
thoughts
showing
that
his true
Jin
strength
had
would he
when
be
he
able
saw
to
Chu
change
Liyue's
his
attitude.
his face completely disappeared.
Hearing her say this,
Bai
he
Chen finally
impatiently
heaved a sigh
interrupted
of
Chu
relief
Liyue
and
quickly asked politely,
I said that you
"Then,
can state
do
any
you still want to
conditions you
continue
want.
with the celestial
You
physician
don't have to
exam?"
say anything else.
Celestial physician
Chu
was even
Liyue's
rarer
lips
than
were
Xian
pale,
master,
and her eyelashes trembled
Previously,
slightly.
he thought that Chu
Then,
Liyue was
she
just trying to
smiled
show
bitterly.
off, but now he was
Your
looking
Highness,
forward to it.
don't worry.
Perhaps
I know that
she
I'm
was
not
really
good enough for
talented
you,
as a
so I've
celestial
never had
physician.
any delusions.
Chu Liyue lowered
I know that
his
you have
eyes
someone
slightly.
else in your heart.
She originally
As she
thought
spoke,
that the Xian
her
master
gaze
exam
seemed to
was a
drift
normal
toward
procedure,
Chu Xianmin.
but she didn't expect to shock
I didn't
these
even
people.
have the chance to go to your
Just
birthday
from Bai
banquets
Chen's
in the
reaction,
past.
she knew that this matter
Third
would
sister
definitely
treated me
spread
well.
quickly. She
A tall
described
tree
everything
attracts the
vividly to
wind.
me every time she came back. She
All
had to
these
be
years,
careful during the
I only
celestial
saw you a
physician
few
exam.
times.
There
Chu
were many
Liyue
things
nodded.
that third sister told me,
Continue.
so I knew a thing or two.
As she spoke,
She
she
opened the
paused
third
and lowered
black
her
wooden
head.
box and took out the
Her
exam
voice was
questions
calm and
inside,
light,
but it made one's heart
Make
ache.
use of the 10 medicinal herbs
She knows
given
what
to
kind
you
of
and
tea you
make a
like to
prescription.
drink, what kind of books you
Chu
like to
Liyue
read,
took a
and
look
what
and
kind
saw
of
that the
incense
wooden
to make
box
you
had
sleep
been
better.
divided into 10 compartments.
I don't know anything. Each compartment
Chu
contained
Xianmin's
different
heart
medicinal
skipped a beat.
herbs. That's
She
not
quickly
right.
took a look and recognized
Why did these words
things.
sound so wrong?
Most of these were
When the crowd
extremely
in the
common
hall heard
medicinal
this,
herbs,
they gradually
but their
figured it out
characteristics
and
were
looked
extremely
at Chu
different.
Xianmin. Some
How
were
was she
cold,
telling Chu
and some
Liyue
were
this
hot.
out of kindness?
Among them,
She's
there was
clearly
silver
showing
ice
off on
cicada,
purpose.
also known as Hanshizi.
She clearly knows that Chu
It was
Luya
highly
and the Crown
poisonous.
Prince are engaged.
The
Yet she
examinee
still
needed
says
to have a thorough
understanding of these medicinal herbs and
Also,
balance each other's
it's
medicinal
fine that she
effects
knows
in
what he
order
likes
to make
to
a
drink
good
tea and
prescription.
read books,
but she
Otherwise,
even knows about
if they
burning
weren't
incense
careful,
to sleep.
they would fail.
TSK.
Not only would they not be able to make a
I
good
thought
prescription,
that this third
they
Missy
might
was
even make a
talented and
poison.
gentle. Among
I didn't
these,
expect
the
her to be
handling
so
of
bold.
Hanxizi was clearly the most
I was
important.
wondering why the crown prince took
Chu
a fancy
Liyue
to her out
obviously
of all
knew
the
how to
noble
handle
ladies in the
Hanxizi to
imperial
remove
city.
the poison, but she
It turns
clearly
out
couldn't
that
do
she
that
has
now.
such means.
She pondered
Even
for a
if
moment
Chu
and took
Liyue
out
is
the
a
medicinal
good-for-nothing,
herbs one
she's
by
still
one.
her elder sister.
Some were ground into
How can
powder,
she treat her like
some were
this?
pressed into juice,
Ha.
and they were mixed together according
What kind
to
of
different
woman can be with a
proportions.
man who's engaged
During
to her
the
elder
entire
sister?
process, Chu
She
Liyue's
looks
movement
quiet and
seemed
gentle,
a bit hesitant
but who
and
knows
slow.
what she's like behind the scenes.
Sometimes, she even
Chu
made some small
Xianmin's
mistakes.
face flushed red,
and a
Bai
fire
Chen
seemed
watched
to
from
be
the side
burning
and
crazily
shook his
in
head
her chest.
inwardly.
Although he
Chu Liyue
wasn't a
words
celestial
directly
physician,
ruined her
he
reputation.
more or less understood.
She stood up without
Chu
thinking
Liyue
and
did have
reprimanded
talent
him
in
in
this
a
area,
shrill voice,
but it was clearly limited.
An hour passed very quickly. What nonsense are you talking about?
Finally finished making
I'll
a
tear
prescription
your mouth
and
apart.
handed it to Bai Chen.
This sharp
Bai
insult
Chen
clearly
took a look
landed
and
in
shook his
everyone's
head.
ears.
Once
Barely
she said
passed.
that, Chu Xianmin knew
However,
that something was wrong.
That was all there
Her
was to it.
shrewish attitude would definitely
With this
make
kind
the
of
empress
talent,
and the
she
crown
could at
prince
most
unhappy
become a
with her.
doctor.
She looked at
couldn't
Rong
become a
Jin
true
in a
panic
panic and saw that
physician.
his expression had indeed
Actually,
changed from
it was
shock
already
to
rare
disgust.
to become a doctor.
Chu Xianmin's
If
heart
other
sank
people could
harshly.
pass this exam, they
However,
would definitely
Chu
be
Liyue
overjoyed.
took a deep breath as if a heavy
However,
burden had
Bai
been
Chen
lifted
had
off her
previously
shoulders.
seen Chu Liyue's
The
stunning
crown
talent
prince and
as a
third
Xian
missy
master.
are a match made in heaven.
When he looked at this again,
I'm willing
he
to back
naturally
out
didn't
and
think
cancel
much
my
of it.
engagement with the crown prince.
Chu Liyue asked,
I
Teacher
don't
Bai
need any
Chen,
compensation.
Did I pass this exam?
Emperor Jiawen
Bai Chen
finally
quickly
spoke.
dismissed those thoughts in
Lu
his
Yu,
heart and
you're
looked
a
at
good
Chu
child.
Liyue with a sigh.
This matter is
Then,
the crown
he
prince's
laughed
fault.
out loud. How about
Of course.
I'll
I
give you and
passed.
your father 100,000
Little Lu
taels
Yu
of
passed
gold.
all 3 exams and
Also,
got into
I see that
Tianlu
your martial
Academy.
arts are not bad.
There aren't many people
Why don't
in
I
our
find you
entire
a teacher
country
from
Yao Chen who
Tianlu
can do
Academy
that.
to teach you well?
His deep voice
It
rang
was the
out
dream
in
of
an
many
instant.
to be able to receive the
It
guidance
reverberated
of
clearly
Tianlu
in the
Academy's
entire
teachers.
square.
Everyone
Chu
was
Liyue
at a
pondered
loss.
for a moment.
What's wrong? What happened just now?
Chapter 31.
Chu Liyue. Not
What?
only did she get into
Emperor
Tianlu
Jiawen
Academy,
thought that he had
but
heard
she also
wrongly,
passed
so
all
he
3
asked again
exams.
subconsciously.
You want to enter Tianlu Academy? Chu Liyue nodded. Chapter 42. Tianlu Academy's recruitment
I'll bring you
period
to
is
the
in
academy
January
to
every
take a
year,
look.
so I hope your
Bai
majesty
Chen
can give
was
me a
filled
chance
with
to take the
excitement.
exam. He could not
Emperor
wait to
Jiawen
accept
looked at
Chu
her with a
Liyue as his
complicated
disciple.
gaze.
It
Chu
would be a
Liyue
huge
is
regret
really
if he missed
strange.
out on such a top-notch
If you
Xian
say that
master
she's
prodigy.
stupid,
She's very calm
He
from
was
the start
originally
and perfectly
unhappy that he
resolved
was
all
sent
the
to
problems
preside
she
over the
faced.
exam,
but he was now
If you say
filled
that
with
she's
joy.
smart,
She took the
he had
initiative
to win
give
Chu
up the
Liyue
position
as
of crown
favor
princess
before those
and
old
even said
fellows
that she
found
wanted
out
to
about
enter
her talent.
Tianlu Academy. Chu Liyue could
She
not
must
help
know
but
that
laugh when she
Tianlu
saw how
Academy is
eager
the
he
top
was.
academy in country Yao
Teacher
Chen,
Bai Chen,
and one must
isn't
be a
this
top
a little too
genius to
fast?
enter.
How
Not
can I do
fast,
it when I
not
don't even have a
fast.
yuan meridian?
Not fast at
This
all.
isn't difficult. You didn't make it in
But
time for the first semester.
Tianlu Academy's
Now that the
assessment
school
is very
year is
difficult.
halfway through, you're half
Are
a
you
year
sure you
later
want
than
to
the
go?
other students. You have to know
You
that
have to
those old
hurry up.
men won't go easy on
At
you
the
on
very
account
least,
of me. You should follow me to
Chu Liyue
familiarize
smiled
yourself with the
slightly.
environment. Lu Yu
He suddenly
naturally
thought
thought
of
of
something
something and slapped his thigh.
Lu
Yu just wants a chance
Oh
to
right,
take the exam.
will you be staying at the Chu
Emperor
residence or the
Jiawen stared
academy?
at her and made sure that
If
she
you're
wasn't
staying at the
joking before
academy,
he finally
I'll get
sighed.
someone to arrange a place for
Since
you.
that's the case,
I'll fulfill
Tianlu
your
Academy
wish.
students were usually
But
free to choose.
it's up to you whether you can get in
Students
or
who
not.
lived in the imperial city
Chu
would
Liyue
usually
bent her
choose to
knees and
stay at
bowed.
home.
Thank
As
you,
for those
Your
who
Majesty,
came from outside
for
the
granting
imperial
my
city,
wish.
most of them would stay
Emperor
at the academy.
Jiawen waved his hands.
Tianlu Academy
Okay,
was the top
you must be
academy
tired
in country
today.
Yao Chen, so its
Go home
conditions
and
were
rest
not
first.
bad.
However,
Ning, compared
stay
to the
with her and
aristocratic
take good
families
care
in
of
the
her.
imperial city,
Since
it was
the
much
most
simpler.
important matter had been settled,
As a result,
Chu Liyue
many
didn't intend to
aristocratic
stay here
family
any longer,
descendants spent
so
more
she
time
left
at
with
home
Chu
than
Ning.
cultivating. The stiff and
Speaking
cold
of which,
atmosphere in
Chu
the palace
Liyue
gradually
actually
recovered a little when the
daughter
duo's
of the
figures
first wife of the
disappeared
Chu
into the
family.
night sky outside the
However,
palace. Bai Chen knew very well that Chu
so many
Liyue's
things had
life
happened
would
tonight,
definitely not
so
be good
nobody
after being
dared to make
called
a
a good
fuss.
for nothing for more than 10
A
years.
good birthday banquet had become
Moreover,
depressing and
she
boring.
had just cancelled her engagement
Rong
with the
Jin
crown
closed
prince
his
and
eyes
was
and
now at
rubbed
the
his
heart of the
glabella.
struggle. His
Not many
engagement with
people
Chu
in the Chu
Liyue had
family would
finally
treat
been
her
resolved.
sincerely.
Logically
Logically
Liuyue's
speaking,
heart warmed
it should have
when
been
she saw
easy,
Bai
but
Chen's
his heart still
enthusiasm.
felt as if it was being pressed
She
down
knew that
by
he
a
was
stone,
thinking for her,
making him
so she
feel
bowed.
extremely depressed.
Thank you, teacher
Everything
Bai
had
Chen.
been planned out well,
Bai
but
Chen was
somehow,
overwhelmed
it ended
by the
up like
favor and
this.
waved his hand.
After today,
I'll be
he
your
didn't
teacher
know
in
what
the
the
future.
people in the imperial capital
What's
would
there to
say
thank
about
me
him.
for?
This was not the most important thing. Why don't you follow me to the most important thing was that Imperial Father was probably dissatisfied with him. Alright, Chu Xianmin's current mood was even worse. The two of them walked toward Tianlu Academy. She sat in her seat, but her body felt numb. At this moment, the crowd finally reacted to her expression kept changing. Looking at the skinny girl, they were speechless had completely ruined her reputation. Who would have thought that she would be able to do whether this was true or not? Looking at Bai Chen's expression, who would have thought that not only would he not valued her deal with Chu Luyue today, in the future, he would even get himself he was afraid that Chu Luyue would no longer be the good pairs of eyes could be bullied and humiliated by others. She felt as if there were daggers on her back, and she just wanted to find a hole to hide in. He stopped in his tracks and glanced at the words Tianlu coughed again. Emperor Jiawen knitted his brows. Since then, she had finally entered the top academy in country Yaochen. Rong Xiao waved his hands. And this was only the beginning. I didn't. After Chu Luyue followed by Chen he could finish his sentence, Academy, he started a series of events that had happened that day spread like wildfire in the imperial city. Emperor Jiawen didn't allow him to passing through the barrier in front of the door. Go back and rest. Chu Luyue finally stepped into it wasn't easy for you to recover at Mingyue Tianshan. As soon as she like this, after she immediately sensed that the concentration of origin power in the surroundings was much stronger than outside. If you fall sick again, I'll punish the people in your residence. She could already see that there was a huge barrier surrounding Tianlu Academy. Yan Qin, that barrier was obviously constructed immediately covered him with a formation, and it was perfectly integrated with the entire academy. Then, he looked at Chu Luyue, glanced over and sensed a few I've already sent a birthday gift to your residence. She raised her eyebrows slightly, I can't accompany you feeling today. A little surprised. I'll apologize another day. Tianlu Academy's Xian formation was much stronger than she had imagined. Seventh brother, it was indeed unexpected to see such a thing in the small country Yaochen. Rong Xiao then turned around and Lu Academy was the right choice. After he left, Rong Xiao also had said that he had military matters to settle and left. When he saw her the originally not harmonious atmosphere, his heart became even more awkward and cold because of the departure of one or two people. Chu Luyue naturally knew that he was that the usually glorious crown prince's birthday banquet would end up like this. Seems to be a little different from the outside of the palace and saw two people standing beside the princely mansion's horse carriage. You can indeed sense and Chu Luyue. Bai Chen was very excited. He raised his brows slightly and walked over. He sighed in his heart. Officer Chu Luyue was indeed the most talented Xian master he had seen in so many years. Chu Ning cupped his fists and bowed seriously. Thinking of this, he could not help but thank you for your help, little Luyue. Princely. You are so talented. My daughter and I will definitely remember your kindness. Why did you? At this point, Rong Xiao's eyes was a little embarrassed to continue Officer Chu. You're too polite. Everyone knew that Chu Luyue had been scolded today as a good-for-nothing for more than 10 years. Other than helping us out today's exam, you also saved my daughter's life the last time. Logically speaking, if it weren't for aristocratic you, we really wouldn't. The Chu family would definitely if you need anything in the future, genius, please let us know. Chu Luyue smiled nonchalantly. The last time, that was saved all in the past. Rong Xiao discovered that I seemed to have some talent girl's warning glare. Bai Chen was secretly bright and dazzling. If this is called of his lips curved, then there are probably not many people in the entire country Yaochen who can be considered geniuses. Officer Chu, there's no need to be like Chu Luyue's talent was discovered too late. It's not if it had happened a few years earlier, its probabilities would definitely be much more powerful now. Chu Luyue speaking of which, it was all because of the Chu family. She had lied to Chu Ning that Bai Chen thought to himself. But she didn't expect him to remember. Seeing that Chu Luyue did not seem to want to talk about Rong Xiao happened to be continue. So he decided to wait here and thank him. He started to introduce the academy no matter how she tried to persuade him, let's not talk about this anymore. In the end, since you are a student here with Tianlu Academy in the future, you will naturally have to wait for too long before. Moreover, you should also be able to sense that the force in the academy is denser than the outside world. Why don't this prince send you back? Chu Luyue all of this is because there is a pit of heavenly origins in the academy. The pit of heavenly origins can continuously produce heaven. There was no free lunch in this world. This Xian formation was used by our first dean to suppress the pit of heavenly origins. On the surface, this man was as cultivating jade and modest as much faster than cultivating in the outside world. Chu Luyue didn't think so. Chu Luyue's eyes flickered. She couldn't see through his eyes, nor could she understand his thoughts. Her intuition told her that this was a very dangerous man. I see. It was best to stay as far away from this kind of realization and asked curiously. Chu Ning looked at her disapprovingly. That so-called pit of heavenly origins Don't be rude to His Highness Princely. Of course. Chu Luyue wrinkled her nose. Bai Chen raised his hand. Chu Ning also felt that this was inappropriate, but before she could say anything,
tower over there?
Wuxia continued.
That's the place closest
in any
to the pit of
case,
heavenly
this prince is going back in the same direction,
force
so I can give you a
even
ride.
denser.
It can even reach a
should
few
be very
times
tired
denser.
today.
Cultivating
Chu
there
Ning's
can be
words
twice
of
the
refusal
result
were
was
stuck
stuck in
in
his
effort.
throat.
You
had a life and death
fixed
battle with
gaze
that
and
golden
then smiled.
python, so he was indeed
Since
very
that's the
worried
case,
about whether she
wouldn't
was
1 year
injured
inside be
after
equivalent to
hesitating
cultivating
for a moment,
outside
he
for a
finally
few
said.
years?
Then I'll have to trouble your highness
Although
princely,
that's the case,
please. No one has been able to
the
stay
carriage of the
inside
Prince
for
Li's
so long.
residence was very spacious
The force
and
in
comfortable.
Joyo Tower is very abundant.
It was more than enough
but it's
for the
also
three of
because
them
of
to
this
sit
that
down.
it puts a lot of pressure on the
Chu
cultivator's
sat
body.
next to Chu Ning,
Even a
facing
stage 3
Wuxia.
warrior can only stay there
Chu
for 3
was
days
very
at most.
vigilant at first,
But
if you
Wuxia
forcefully stay
closed
there,
his eyes
not
as if
only
he was
will it not
resting
benefit
after
your
getting
cultivation,
cultivation, but it will also
he
cause
sat there
great damage
quietly
to
with
your
those
body
deep
and
eyes
even
that
endanger
seemed to
your
be
life.
able to suck out souls.
At this point,
His
Chen's
jade-like
expression
face
was
became
tranquil
much more
and serious.
gentle under the warm light.
Don't bite off
Chu
more than you
Luiyue
can chew.
glanced at him and then looked away.
I'm sure you know that.
They didn't speak for
Chu
the rest of the
Luiyue
journey
nodded.
until they arrived at the Chu
However,
estate.
Joyo Tower isn't a
Chu
place
Ning
you
was
can
the
enter
first to
casually.
jump off the carriage.
You just need to
Chu
understand
Luiyue
these
was
things
about to
briefly.
leave,
But she was
Bai
suddenly
Chen
pulled
glanced
back
at
by a
Chu
hand.
Luiyue hesitantly.
It was slightly cold
It's better
to the
for you
touch,
to study
and a
this
subtle
Xian
feeling
formation
seemed to
when you
spread
have
from her
time.
skin to the bottom of her
Chu
heart.
Luiyue smiled but
Chu
didn't say
Luiyue
anything.
was about to make a move when
She
an
knew what
extremely
Bai Chen
soft
meant.
and gentle voice entered her ears.
She had an incomplete Yuan meridian.
Remember to
and it
return
was
the
useless
things
for
to
her
me.
to go there.
Chu Luiyue
Only
was
Xian
stunned.
masters didn't have any
She looked
requirements
back,
for their
but
Yuan
Wuxia
meridian as
had
long as
already
they
let
could
go
feel
of
the
her
heaven
hand
and
and
earth
closed his
force
eyes
circulating,
again.
as if nothing had
He had
happened.
said this out of consideration
She
for
pursed her lips. Chu Luiyue didn't explain further. It wasn't necessarily a bad thing to enter as a Xian master. Chu Luiyue lifted the curtain and got off the carriage.
Many things would be much
more convenient in the future.
It was rare for Wuxia to
At
be
the same
dazed.
time, she could leave a
Then,
way out for
he
herself.
slowly
curved his lips and laughed
It was
softly.
killing several birds with one
She
stone.
was indeed the first person to
That's
say
the
that he was
Academy's
petty.
martial arts field.
Yan Qing was waiting
Students
respectfully
usually
outside
there.
the carriage.
Next to it
Hearing
is the
his
arena,
master's
which
rare
is usually
laughter,
where
he
students
was formally
shocked.
challenge each other.
What's going on?
As Bai Chen led
Although
Chu
Master
Luiyue
looked
into
gentle,
the academy,
in fact,
he told her
he did
about
not
many
show
things
his
related
emotions
to
on
the
his
academy.
face.
Today
rarely
is the day
smiled
you
like
enter the
this.
academy.
Just now,
You also know
what did
that
he
the
do?
academy recruits the
Did
top
his master
geniuses.
really have feelings for that
In
person
order to
from the
tap
Chu
their
family?
greatest potential, the
Let's go
academy's
back.
teaching method is very particular.
Wuxia's voice was filled
Bai
with joy.
Chen raised 3 fingers.
Yes. Warrior,
Yan Qing
Xian
immediately
master,
drove the
and
carriage
celestial
forward.
physician.
The Prince
Celestial
Li's mansion was not far from
there
the
are
Chu
even
family.
fewer students.
It only took them an
Furthermore,
hour to reach
less
the
than
mansion.
1/3
of them could become heavenly
Wuxia
doctors.
returned to his residence.
After students enter the
UMO,
academy,
another
they will be
bodyguard,
assigned to
who
different
had been
teachers
waiting
according
for a
to their
long time,
results, immediately came forward and said respectfully, "Your Highness, everything
However,
has been
if
arranged."
the
student's talent is extremely
Wuxia
good,
nodded.
there will be
Walked
a
to the
situation
table
where
and
several
put something
teachers
down.
will fight over the student.
UMO took a look
At
and
this
was
time,
shocked.
the students will usually
was a
choose
teacup.
which teacher to follow.
The design was
Bai
elegant
Chen
and the carving
coughed as
was
he spoke.
exquisite.
There was a
and
faint
I am
golden
usually a
circle
Xian
around
master
it.
teacher.
This was
Chu
obviously
Luiyue
something
nodded
used
in
in the palace.
understanding.
But
Being
the
a
next
warrior
moment,
was not
UMO
rare.
saw the teacup
In
shatter
comparison,
silently. Being a Xian master
in the blink
was
of an
more
eye,
honorable.
it turned into powder.
It was normal for him to
Yumo's
choose to be a
heart skipped
Xian
a
master
beat.
teacher. He did not
At
dare
the same
to ask
time,
again.
Chu Luiyue finally
He could only
understood
look at
why
Yan
Bai
Qing
Chen's
for
help.
attitude suddenly changed
Master
after she
rarely
displayed
gets
her
angry
talent
like
as a
this.
Xian master.
What's going on?
It was obvious that he wanted to
But
take
his
her in
master
as
did
his
not look
disciple.
angry.
But Chu
He even
Luiyue did not
seemed
want
to
to
be
make
in
a
a good
decision
mood.
too early, so she
Yan
did not
Qing
say
looked
anything
down and
even
did
though
not
she
say
had a smile
anything.
on her face.
What should he say?
Bai Chen was a little disappointed
Should he say
when
that
he
it
saw
was
this,
because of that
but he
person
knew
from
that
the
with
Chu
his
family?
previous attitude, he did not
Wuxia
have the
took
face
off
to
his
ask
cloak.
Chu Luiyue to choose
Only
him as her
then did
master.
UMO notice that there were
Chu
traces of
Luiyue
blood on
calmly
his hand.
changed the topic. He immediately
Teacher
cried
Bai
out in
Chen,
shock. Why is the academy
Your
a little
Highness,
quiet?
you're injured.
We've been here
Didn't
for
His
a while,
Highness attend
but
the
we
Crown
haven't seen
Prince's
anyone.
birthday banquet?
Bai Chen
How
was
could he
taken
be
aback
injured?
before bursting into laughter.
Wuxia looked down and saw
Ah.
that his hand was stained
That's
with
because
blood.
the academy's 3-day
It
midterm
was,
assessment
from her
has
hand.
started. It
Today
seemed that
is
she
the
did
first
not
day,
wipe it clean,
so the students and teachers
her
have all
face
gone
and
to the
body
back
were
of the
covered in
mountain.
blood.
Midterm
How could a
assessment?
handkerchief wipe them clean?
That sounds a little familiar.
Wuxia's
If she
eyes
did not
turned
remember
cold.
wrongly, she remembered that Chu Xianmin had planned to come out on top in this assessment. Umo didn't expect him to suddenly ask this question. A few female voices were heard. After thinking for a moment, he immediately replied, "Let's go quickly. The fourth princess seems to want to change her contracted magical beast recently. Pei, why are you in such a hurry? She likes to go to the hunting ground. Isn't there still some time? What an interesting interest. Besides, Minmin has always been liked by the teachers for a while." They won't
His
blame
slender
her even
fingers
if she's
lightly
late.
knocked on the table twice.
Don't
as
you
he
think
lightly
so,
said,
Minmin?
Then let her have fun.
Even so, it's
His
not
tone
good
was
to be
calm,
late.
but UMO could
Let's
hear
hurry.
a trace of cold killing intent.
Speaking of which, it's all my fault today.
UMO
If
could
I
not
hadn't
help
been held
but
up by
sigh
something
inwardly.
at home,
We wouldn't
it
be
was
so
said
late.
that the fourth princess had a
Chu
rude and
Luyue looked in
unreasonable
the direction of the
personality
voice
and had always
saw
been
a few
lawless.
girls walking out from the right.
However, her master
who
had
else
always
could it be
been
other
too
than
lazy
Chu
to pay
Xianmin?
attention
Who
to
else
such
could it
people.
be? Minmin, you're too
She didn't
kind.
know what she had done to provoke
I
her
heard
master's
that it's all
murderous
because
intent.
of Chu Luyue that you were
Your
punished by
Highness,
your father.
do you want to take a bath and
That's
rest
good
now?
for nothing clearly can't
The Rong
stand that
Xiao's
you're more
fingertips
outstanding
gently
than her,
caressed it,
so she's
as if there was a
deliberately
soft
taking
and warm
revenge.
touch.
At the mention of
Yes.
Chu Luyue,
Tell
Chu
them that this
Xianmin's
king
face
has caught a
froze for a
cold
moment,
today and is
but it
resting
quickly
in bed.
disappeared.
I won't
No
see
matter
anyone.
what, she's still my sister.
Yes.
Humph.
She's not
Yan
worthy.
Qing responded and immediately
I remember
left.
that today is the day of
At
her
the door,
assessment.
the Rong
right?
Xiao added another sentence.
She's really not afraid of
If
embarrassing
she comes,
herself.
you must inform me
If
immediately.
I were her, I would have killed myself
Even though
out
she
of
was
shame.
mentally prepared.
Yan
Minmin,
Qing
you're
was
the
still
person
shocked.
who came first in the academy's
She barely
assessment.
controlled her expression.
She's just a good-for-nothing
Yes,
who can't
Your
even get
Highness.
into our academy. UMO tactfully
What does she
left
have to
and
compete
quickly
with you?
chased after Yan Qing
Chu
after
Xianmin
exiting the
pursed
door.
her
lips, but a tinge
What's
of
going
happiness
on?
flashed across her
Who
heart.
was
Master talking about just now? Yan Qing remained
However,
silent. At this moment, she
after
suddenly
being
felt
chased
that
by
something was
UMO
amiss.
for a
long time. She
finally
subconsciously
said,
turned
"You'll know
around
when she
and saw a
comes."
familiar face. UMO was
Chu
confused.
Luyue.
What on earth happened that night? That was not all that had happened that night. Chapter 44. To a certain person, it was a night
Upon
where
hearing
even the
this,
night breeze
Chu
was
Luyue
sweet.
asked,
Why can't
However,
I be here? It was not so wonderful
Why can't
for
I
others.
be here?
After the banquet
after
ended,
the series
first
of events
elder
at the
and
Crown
the rest
Prince's
hurried back to
birthday
the Chu
banquet.
family. Chu Xianmin hated
It
Chu
was already
Luyue to
very
the
late
core.
at night,
But Chu
now
Xianmin
that she
did
suddenly
not return
saw
to
Chu
her room
Luyue,
to rest. She could not wait to teach her a
Instead,
lesson. She was repeatedly
However,
interrogated by
she
first
suddenly
elder
realized
and the
that
rest.
there
was someone standing
beside
The doors
Chu
and windows
Luyue
of the
when the
room
room
were
were
tightly
about
to
shut.
come out of her mouth. First elder sat
was
at the
teacher
head of
by
the table
Chen from
while
the
Chu
academy.
Yan and Lu Yao sat below.
She
forcefully swallowed the
Chu
words in her
Xianmin
throat
stood
and
in the
quickly
middle.
hid her hateful expression.
The few people's gazes
When
were
she
like
looked
sharp
up at Bai
knives
Chen
that
again,
scraped across
she had her
Chu
usual
Xianmin's
gentle
body.
smile on her face. What Chu Luyue said
Greetings,
today,
teacher
was it
Bai
true?
Chen.
Asked
Her
first
greeting
elder
immediately
in a
made
deep
the few
voice.
people around her react,
Chu Xianmin
and they
was
immediately
angry
fell
and
in
embarrassed
suit
and saluted. Of course it's
Greetings,
false, teacher Bai Chen.
Why would I?
Bai Chen frowned.
Why would
and
I
did
do
not
such a
say
thing?
anything? That
He
he
had
had
clearly
clearly heard what these people had said earlier. Chu
Putting
Yan's
aside the
face was
grudge
green the
between
whole
Chu
way.
Xianmin and Chu Luyue.
At this point,
Chu Luyue
he could
had
not
never
hold it in
provoked
anymore
anyone
and
else.
slammed the table. He did not expect
You're
them
still
to speak
lying.
so harshly in private.
If you didn't say it,
How
he
would
treasured
Chu Luyue know
that
that
the
a lot in
Crown
his
Prince
heart
needs to
and
light
he couldn't bear
incense
to
when he
hear
sleeps.
anyone slander or humiliate
Only
her.
close people would know about
Bai
this
Chen
kind of
had
thing.
a bad temper to begin
Chu
with. Xianmin was so frightened
When he heard
that she
this,
shivered
his
and
heart
immediately
was
felt
already
guilty.
burning with anger.
That. Sensing Bai Chen's anger,
I didn't.
Chu Xianmin and the
I
rest
really
could not
didn't.
help but exchange glances.
I just
Coincidentally
They were a little
went
worried.
to see the Crown Prince once.
Could it be that
He heard
was
what we
resting,
said just now,
and I
smelled the incense.
Even
if he heard us,
we
looking
kept
at her
talking
expression,
about Chu Luyue.
how could these people, who
Why
were
is
used to
teacher
seeing
Bai
the
Chen
wind and
angry?
waves, not be able to
The
see
academy
through her?
recruited all of you in
Even
order
if
to
the
let
two
you
of them
cultivate
did not
and
go to
become
the
experts.
last step, not
They
for you to
probably
gossip
did something
behind
that they
people's
should not have
backs.
done.
If your
Chu
mind
Yan
isn't on
closed his
cultivation,
eyes.
then get out of here.
Do you know that this matter will
Bai
spread
Chen did
throughout
not give
the
them
entire
any
face.
imperial city tomorrow?
His words were powerful.
Your reputation
and made
will
the
be
few people's
completely
faces
ruined.
turn pale.
Also,
These
you actually
words
slandered
were
his
too
majesty
harsh.
in front of him like a shrew.
When
today.
had they ever been reprimanded
Why
like
would
this
the Crown
before?
Prince still choose you
For
as
a
his
moment,
consort? His face was burning.
Chu
Xianmin was suddenly
However,
speechless.
Bai
Chen had a distinguished
Lu Yao,
status. Who was at the side? How could they dare
suddenly
to go
spoke.
against him? Since
The
the
few
news
of them
can't be
secretly
sealed,
looked at
then
Chu
don't.
Xianmin
for help. The few of them looked
At this
her in
time,
shock. Only Chu Xianmin, who was the
Lu
teacher's
Yao's
favorite,
eyes
could
flickered.
speak. Now that
Chu
this matter
Xianmin
can't
was
be
also
cleared,
shocked by
let's
Bai
just
Chen.
go with the flow. Didn't I just
If
say
everyone
a few
knows
words
that
about
you're
Chu
already the
Luyue?
Crown Prince's woman,
Did he have
then
to
he will
act like
definitely
this?
not abandon you.
Teacher Bai Chen,
Chu
you
Xianmin
might have
felt
misunderstood something.
But if
We
that's
were
the
just
case,
casually
the
speaking
position
just
of the
now.
first consort is,
We don't
you'll be
have
the
any
first
ill
consort
intentions.
sooner or later
However,
once you
Bai
enter
Chen
Crown
did not
Prince
seem to
mansion.
want to give her any face today.
What else is so important? Oh? So you're saying that I heard wrongly? Your only chance now is to become stronger. Normally, the teachers in the academy would never treat her like everyone's mouths. What was going on today? The academy's assessment is coming soon. Minmin didn't mean that. You must get first place. It's just that I was a little surprised to see you here, so I couldn't help but ask.
Now,
she changed
this was the only way,
intending to cover up the fact that they had insulted
After
Chu
Chu
Luyue went back. At the
she
same
took a hot
time,
shower
she
and
quickly
changed into
remembered
a
clean
something.
set of clothes before
The
she
person
felt
who
more
was sent to
comfortable.
test Chu Luyue today
Just
was
as she
Bai
was
Chen.
tidying her clothes, the handkerchief suddenly fell to the ground. She picked up the handkerchief. Is she trying to test me, which was originally as white as snow,
smiled.
Was now stained with blood.
Sure.
It
Zhenbao
looked terrible.
Pavilion
was especially lively
Thinking
today.
of Rong
Xiu's words,
it
she
was not
snorted
even
softly
noon,
and
but
drew
many
water
people
to
had
wash
already
the
gathered
handkerchief
on the
clean
first
again.
floor.
Moreover, they were all people of status. Chapter 33. They were here today for the same
next
reason.
day,
News of what
Pavilion
happened at
had
the Crown
recently
Prince's
received a
birthday
new
banquet
batch of
quickly
treasures.
spread throughout the imperial
Today,
city. They were going to hold
everyone
an auction
was
for
talking
these
about
items.
it.
Too many
days
things
ago,
had happened that
the booklet
night,
had
but
already
the most
been
talked
sent to
about
every
person was
family.
Chu Xianmin. As some of the items
She had been
were
having an
indeed
affair
rare,
with the
many
Crown
people
Prince
came
for a
today.
long time.
Zhenbao
They thought
Pavilion
that she was a
second in
pure
charge,
and innocent
Yan
genius,
Gu, was
but they did not
enthusiastically
expect her to
chatting
be
with
such
the
a
crowd.
shameless person.
Second Master
Even though
Yan,
the Xian
we've been
who
waiting for
mainland
today's
respected the
auction
strong,
for a long
they
time.
were
still very conservative
Yeah.
when it came to such matters.
I wonder who will get those
Chu
items in the
Xianmin
end.
was still a girl and had not even reached
won't we know when
marriageable
the auction
age.
starts?
Her reputation
for
was
your hard
completely
work.
ruined
Second
after
Master
such a thing
Yan
was exposed. Yan Gu was full
Rong
of
Jin's
smiles.
annulment of his engagement with
You're
Chu
welcome.
Luyue was within everyone's
Thank you for coming.
expectations.
At this
so they were
moment,
more
a
interested
page
in
boy
Chu
suddenly
Xianmin's
walked
matter.
behind Yan Gu and whispered
course,
into his ear.
many people were shocked
At
when
the same
Chu
time,
Luyue said that
he
she
handed
wanted
him
to
a letter.
enter Tianlu Academy.
Yan Gu laughed and said,
However,
everyone,
no one cared
please.
about it after the momentary
I'll
shock.
take my leave first.
How could a good-for-nothing
Then,
with a
he
broken
retreated
yuan
to the
meridian
cubicle
enter
at the back of
Tianlu
the hall
Academy
and carefully opened the
Everyone
letter.
thought that she was dreaming.
Why did Master suddenly send
Some
a letter?
people even
When he
suspected
saw the
that
words
she was
on the letter,
traumatized by
Yan
the
Ji's
annulment of her
voice stopped
engagement
abruptly,
and that her brain
and
was
his
not
eyes
normal.
widened.
Most
His
people's
expression
thoughts
quickly
were still
changed,
on the Crown
and
Prince,
it took him a
Rong
while to
Jin.
calm his frantic heartbeat.
Now that the position of the Crown
After a
Princess
while,
was
he
empty,
walked out and
Chu
stood in the middle
Xianmin,
of the hall,
who had always been the most
I'm
competitive
sorry,
candidate,
everyone
had such a scandal.
Today's
it was
auction
impossible
has been
for her to
cancelled.
become the Crown Princess.
Once this was said,
everyone was
many
shocked.
noble ladies in the imperial
What?
city were tempted to make
It's
a move.
cancelled?
Chu
What's
Luyue
going on?
woke up early in the morning
We've
and
been waiting
practiced
here
in the
for the
yard
whole
as
morning.
usual.
How
She
can it
only
be cancelled
stopped when
just
she
like
was
that?
completely exhausted. Yan Gu cupped his hands
At this
in
time,
apology.
the sky
but his
was
tone
only
was
slightly
firm.
bright.
You, Chu Ning's voice came from behind. Chapter 45. Chu Luyue turned around and
Hearing
saw Chu
Yan Gu
Ning
mention
standing
the
in the
big
yard,
master,
looking
the
at her
noisy
lovingly.
hall immediately quietened
She
down.
had already sensed that Chu
Everyone
Ning
looked
was
at
here,
each other,
so she was not surprised.
They did not expect this to be
Chu
the
Ning had
intention
long
of the
been used
mysterious
to her
big
crazy
master of
practice
Zhenbao
every day,
Pavilion,
but he had never stopped
If it was
her.
any other reason,
He
they
knew
could
that
still
this was
argue.
what she wanted to do,
But
so
who
he
knew
chose
that
to
it was
support her
actually that
silently.
person?
He was not
Father,
someone to be
aren't you
trifled
going to
with.
the shop today?
Yan Gu chuckled
Asked
and
Chu
said,
Luyue
don't
strangely.
worry.
Everyone,
Her eyes
don't
quickly
worry.
scanned Chu Ning's body
In order
and
to
found that he was a
compensate
little
everyone
different
for
today.
today's loss,
My
he had
Zhenbao
changed
Pavilion
into a
will send
navy
a small
blue robe
gift to
with
each
a
of
white
our
belt
esteemed
around his
guests.
waist.
Please
His
forgive
hair
us.
was neatly tied up, and
Hearing
his
Yan
beard had
Ji's
clearly been
words,
shaved.
everyone's expression
There was
became
still
better.
a faint green stubble on
This
his
was
chin.
considered giving them a way out.
Today's Chu Ning had clearly
course,
tidied herself
everyone
up
gave
meticulously.
Second
She looked
Master
much
Yan,
younger.
you're too courteous.
Most importantly, his
Since it's the
expression
big
was no
master's
longer as
request,
gloomy and
we naturally
dispirited as
won't
before.
object. Instead,
That's right.
his eyes were bright and his
Zhenbao
entire
Pavilion
person
has been
was in
doing
high
business
spirits,
in the capital
as
for
if he
so
had been
many
reborn.
years.
Chu
Why would we
Luyue had
purposely
already
make
guessed
things
something.
difficult for them?
Today,
We'll just
Father
wait
has
for a
something
while.
important to do. Gift or not,
Chu Ning
Second
looked
Master
calm,
Yan
but
is
there was
too
a hint of
courteous.
excitement in her eyes.
Almost everyone present
Chu
was an
Luyue
aristocrat
nodded.
in the capital. From the looks
What
of
they
it,
cared
Chu
about the
Ning
most
was
was
finally
not money,
roused, but status and face. In the future,
If it was another
Father
house
will
that
definitely
canceled the
not let
auction
you
at the
or
last
suffer
minute,
the
they
grievances
would
of the
definitely not
past.
let the matter rest.
There are some debts that
But it
should
was
be
settled
settled
properly.
properly. Chu
In their
Ning
hearts,
said in a
they
firm
were more or
tone.
less afraid of him.
In the past, his
Yan
body
Gu
was
continued
unable
with
to
a
protect
smile.
you. Thank you very
But
much.
now that he had
everyone.
successfully broken through,
Later,
he naturally
the people
could
from
not sit
Zhenbao
still
Pavilion
and wait
will
for
give
death.
each of you a barrier-breaking
He lowered
pill
his
as an
voice
apology.
and asked in a deep voice,
Hearing his
"You,
words,
you
the
said
crowd
that
was
Chu
shocked
Xianmin
again.
sent someone named Song Yan to
Wall-breaking
kill you?"
pill? Yes.
That was a rarely seen
Do you know
first-rate
him,
medicinal
Father?
pill.
Chu
Advancing
Luyue's
from a
heart
stage
skipped
3
a
warrior
beat.
to a stage 4
Chu
warrior
Ning
was a
narrowed
huge
his threshold that all cultivators
I
faced.
didn't know him before, but
Many
I did
people
find
were
out some
unable
things
to
after some
successfully break through
investigation.
in their entire lives
That
and
Song
remain stage
Lian
3
is a
warriors
well-known
forever.
hooligan.
But
He's
if they
usually
use the
arrogant
wall-breaking
and despotic,
pill, the
and he does
success
all
rate
sorts
would
of
increase
evil.
by 2 times.
Many people in the
This
imperial
2 times
city
did
have
not
been bullied
sound
by
very
him.
impressive, but it
He
could help
idles
some
around
people
every day
successfully
and
break
has nothing
through
to
and
do at
advance
all.
further. He frequents
really
all
a
sorts of
precious
big
treasure.
casinos all year round.
Ordinary people might not
However,
even have
such
one in
a
their
person has
entire
a lot of
lives.
background.
Even
He has
existences
caused
like
trouble
the
a
four
few
great
times
clans
and even
could
offended
only take
some
out a few
aristocratic
of them.
families' descendants.
But Zhenbao
nothing
Pavilion
happened in the end.
actually said that they would give
Chu
one to each
Luyue
person.
nodded in understanding.
There were at least 20
It
to
seems
30
like the
people
person
here.
behind him is not Chu
If
Xianmin
everyone
but
had one,
someone else.
that was. And this
Chu
was just their
Xianmin
way
did
of
not have
apologizing.
such great capabilities.
Zhenbao Pavilion
There must be
really
someone else
generous.
behind this.
Some people's
No wonder a
expressions
mere
changed
stage
again as they started to reevaluate the precious treasure pavilion's
It was obvious
position.
that someone was backing him.
So many wall-breaking
Have
pills
you found
were not
out who his
something
real
that could be
backer
obtained
is,
with money
Father?
alone? What was the
Chu
background
Ning
of this
paused
treasure
and
pavilion?
shook his head regretfully.
And who exactly was
Not
that
yet.
great master of theirs who
He
had
seems
never
to be
shown his
very
face?
wary of this and hides it
The
very
wall-breaking
deeply.
pill successfully appeased
I'm afraid we
everyone's
have to investigate
dissatisfaction.
properly.
Even if they
Chu
still had
Luyue
complaints, they didn't dare to
There's
say
no
anything.
such thing as an airtight wall in the world.
He
After
has
a while,
disappeared for a
someone
month now.
finally laughed and joked.
The person
Second
behind him
Master
will
Yan,
definitely not
Zhenbao
sit back
Pavilion
and do
must have
nothing.
suffered a huge loss
He
this
will
time,
be exposed
right?
sooner or later.
Your first master
She
is
thought
really
for a
willing
while
to do
and
anything
asked,
for his
"Father,
wife. Do you know which casino
Yan
he
Gu
likes to
straightened
go
his
to the
back and
most?"
smiled politely.
Chu Ning asked
It's
curiously.
nothing.
Our
Feng
first
Yun
master
Casino
has a deep relationship with
But
Madam.
why are you asking
As long
this?
as he can make Madam smile,
You can't take
what does
the
this
risk
count
alone.
for?
Father,
The crowd
don't
roared with
worry.
laughter. I'm just
Soon,
asking casually.
someone stood up and took his leave.
I won't do anything rash.
Soon, everyone in the
Chu
hall
Ning
left
was
one
relieved.
after another, leaving only
He thought
Yan
for a
Gu
while
and
and
few
reminded,
servants. Oh, right.
Yan Gu finally heaved a
Prince Li
sigh
has
of
helped us
relief
a few
after
times.
those people had all disappeared.
We haven't
and
thanked
closed
him
the door.
properly.
He rubbed
Seeing
his
how
face
grateful
that had
her
stiffened
father
from
was
smiling
smiling
and immediately
Chu
turned to
Luyue
enter
was
the
speechless.
cubicle at the back of the hall.
If this continued,
He
she
hurriedly
did not
asked
know
the
what her
servant who
father would
delivered
do.
the letter. He hurriedly
She
asked the
hurriedly
servant,
said,
"Since
"Father,
when did the
you're
first
right.
master have a wife?"
Father, you're
Only
right.
the heavens knew that he was
I'm planning to
completely
personally
stunned when he
thank
saw
you
the
today.
letter from the first master.
The best thing to do was
The
to
servant
return the
coughed.
things and minimize our
I only
interactions
found
in
out
the
today.
future. It
Chu
should
Ning
be
frowned.
something that happened recently.
Today? But
You
we
follow
don't
the
have
first
anything to
master
thank him
every
with
day.
right now. How could you not know?
His Highness Prince Li
Yan
is
Gu didn't
kind-hearted.
believe him. Why
He
would he care
immediately
about
stepped
this?
forward and took out the letter.
Father, don't you think so?
He read it carefully a few
Chu
times and
Luyue
lamented
said with a smile,
I've been following the first master
The gift
for
is
so
light,
many years,
but the thought is heavy.
How could I not know
His
anything
Highness
about
Prince
such
Li
an
will
important
definitely
matter?
not mind.
It's fine
What
if
do
the
you
first
think?
master didn't say anything.
Only then
but
did
why
Chu
didn't
Ning
you tell me
feel
first?
relieved.
You
That's
suddenly
good.
did this today and I almost couldn't clean up the
Chu
mess.
Luyue blinked seriously.
The servant felt wronged.
Your daughter will go now.
I really didn't know either.
Chu Luyue left the
If you
residence
really want
without
to
a
know,
hitch.
you can ask the first
Her
master
engagement
yourself.
with the crown prince had been
Yan
cancelled,
Gu immediately
but after
shut
this
up.
series of events,
He
everyone
didn't
in
have
the
the
Chu
guts.
clan knew that Chu Luyue
After
was not to be
hesitating for a
trifled
while,
with.
he finally couldn't
So their
help but
attitude
ask
towards
softly,
her was much
"Sigh,
more polite.
You should know who Madam is.
No one even
right?
asked her what she was going
Can
to
you
do.
tell me? They
So
just
that
let
we
her
won't
go.
clash in the future.
Chu Luyue walked
The
in the
page boy
direction
sighed.
of Prince Li's residence.
You'll naturally find out
She
in a
didn't
few
hide
days.
her identity today.
Yan Gu was even
Her
more
fair and
curious
beautiful
after hearing
face was
this.
recognized by many
The
people
first
on the
master
road.
had never been tempted by
They
women
secretly
before,
pointed at her,
but didn't
Why
dare
did he
to
suddenly
bully her
have a
like
madam?
before. What kind
Chu
of fairy
Luyue
could turn
turned
the
a
first
blind eye
master's
to them,
heart, as if she didn't care
I've
at all?
delivered the letter.
After walking
I'll
for
take
about
my
a
leave
quarter of
first.
an hour, she walked to
Take
the
care of
bustling
things
main road,
here.
and there were more people
The first
around her.
master will be here soon.
She was walking when she
The
suddenly
servant left
heard a
quickly
commotion
after
in
he
front of
finished
her.
speaking.
Then,
A
sigh,
figure quickly
Yan
rushed
Gu couldn't
over.
stop him and rubbed his
Chu
glabella with a
Luyue was
headache.
about to avoid it when she
The
suddenly
first
sensed
master
something.
wanted to pick a gift for Madame
Her
and
eyes
didn't
narrowed,
hesitate to
and her
offend
figure
so many
paused.
important people in the
The
imperial
other party
city.
suddenly bumped into her.
It was obvious that
Catch
he
the
was
thief.
serious.
A roar
Tian
came from
Lu
behind.
Academy, Back Mountain.
Chu Luyue looked back
Many
and saw that
students
the
were
person
gathered
who
here.
bumped into her had disappeared
It was
quickly.
very lively and noisy.
The corner of her mouth
Their
twitched
young faces
imperceptibly,
were filled with
and she
unconcealed
immediately
excitement
followed after
and
him.
nervousness. The sun
I
was
wonder
setting.
what the assessment this year
The
is
last
like.
ray of light poured down.
I heard that the
reflecting the
rewards are
slender figure
exceptionally
lying
generous.
on the bed by the window.
Our academy has
Rong
always
Xiao
been
quietly
generous.
flipped through a scroll in his hand.
What's so strange about this?
He was as noble as
The
usual.
key is whether
but for
we can
some
get
reason,
into the top
there
few
was a
places.
faint coldness between his eyebrows.
Yan Qing said,
That's
Your
true.
Highness, the residents received
higher the
23
ranking,
invitations
the better
today,
the rewards.
including those from the
The
Crown
3
Prince's
batches
residence.
of students will be assessed test separately,
I have rejected
and there
all
will be
of them.
3 first places.
Rong Xiu softly
Chu
said,
Xianmin will definitely
the
be the first in our batch,
even colder,
right? Gradually, the sky became completely
why isn't
dark.
she here yet?
Rong
Teacher
Xiu
Bai
turned the
Chen
page
isn't
and
back
asked
either.
indifferently. No one
Bai
came
Chen
to visit
and the rest
today.
finally arrived just
How
as
could
the
Yan
crowd
Qing
was
not know
discussing.
who he was asking?
A green-robed teacher
Couldn't help
who was
but complain
preparing for
inwardly,
the assessment
and his head
saw
hung
Bai
lower.
Chen and hurriedly waved
Your
at him.
Highness, No one. Bai Chen, you're finally back. Why did you take so long for an assessment? Chapter 34. You still have to deal with the Xian formation over
chased
there.
after the person who bumped into her and left the downtown area very quickly.
Ling Zhu, it wasn't until they reached a dead end that the man who was running away from our academy. His voice was loud to begin with, and he had made up his mind to support Chu Luyue. The man turned around his and voice reverberated loudly. He sneered and weighed clearly in everyone's ears from Chu Luyue. At this moment, if you want everyone's gazes were focused on Zhang Xian. Chu Luyue's gaze swept across the flat pouch and sighed. What do you mean? Are you so sure that I have money on me? And took a step to the side. The man's expression froze and he suddenly thought of something. Chu Luyue quickly tore open the pouch, but other than a white handkerchief, teacher Ling there was no money at all. Luyu? A trace of anger flashed across his face, but it disappeared very quickly and furrowed his brows as he looked up at Chu Luyue with a sinister smile. Bai Chen, you don't really think that I'm here for your money and is officially a part of our academy. As he said that, he suddenly pulled out a dagger from his waist. As soon as he finished speaking, the originally noisy back mountain suddenly fell silent at all and revealed a meaningful smile. Chu Xianmin saw that Chu Luyue was in the limelight again for a moment before he suddenly reacted. There was no money in the pouch. Even if it was stolen, Chu Luyue could just ignore it, but she still followed him. Chapter 46. She followed him on purpose. Upon hearing with your mediocre skills, the originally whimsical of you to think that you can steal something from me. Everyone was shocked as they looked at Chu Luyue as if they were looking at a lunatic. Chu Luyue's words made the man's expression to participate in their assessment. You're courting death. Ling Zhu furrowed his brows. The man roared and the dagger in his hand quickly stabbed towards Chu Luyue. What's going on? Rank 4 warrior. The Academy's assessment is about to start. The moment he made his move, Chu Luyue quickly judged his strength. Bai Chen chuckled. She squinted her eyes. Why would I joke about something like this? It seemed that the mysterious disappearance of little Luyu has already been admitted to our mastermind to be wary of her. Why can't she participate in the assessment? This time, they actually sent a rank 4 still had doubts in his heart, so he scrutinized Chu Luyue, staggered her feet and quickly took everyone half a step in the imperial city knew that Chu Luyue right leg was born slightly and with a tap of her toes. Otherwise, she suddenly exerted her daughter of the Chu family. Her seemingly weak and slender body was actually filled with astonishing toughness and explosive power as she rushed out admitted to their academy and had passed facing a rank 4 warrior. She actually chose to face him head on. One had to know that there were only a few people who could do this in the entire history of the academy. The man's hand quickly turned and he intended to use the dagger to pierce character very well. He was very straightforward. A crisp sound was heard. If someone did not have any real ability, the man only felt a strong impact from Chu Luyue's leg, however, causing his hand to go numb. Chu Luyue now. His dagger slid out, seeing that he did not behind a string of dazzling sparks. Bai Chen impatiently waved his hand. What was going on? Okay, he's Estes' leg. I know you don't believe me. Before he could figure out why Luyue had such a piece of equipment for yourself, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his wrist. Ling Zhu could only agree to his words. Chi. Okay. The sharp weapon scraped across his wrist and instantly cut off a layer of flesh. Chu Xianmin immediately pricked up her ears. He screamed in pain and quickly retreated. She really wanted to know what Chu Luyue relied on to get in and even participate in the assessment so boldly. Bai Chen went up to Chu Luyue, landed on the ground and saw the situation. Little Luyue, what do you want to take? She shook her head in dissatisfaction. The Xian Master assessment is actually easier and doesn't take much time. She already knew that she was surrounded on all sides. Why don't you choose this one? So she was very careful with her words and actions. Shook his head. Her strength had really didn't know what was wrong, so she strengthened her combat power in other aspects. The warrior assessment was clearly the shortest. She had specially asked Chu the remaining for the dagger hidden in the soul whether it was the mystic cultivator assessment or the celestial physician assessment. This man's entire wrist consumed a lot of energy and stamina. It was a pity that the material used to make the dagger was not the mystic master so she could only make do with it. Of course, her leisurely Chu Luyue could guess Bai Chen was angry and annoyed, so she smiled and said, "No matter what, he was still a rank 4 warrior." But he actually suffered a loss in the hands of a useless person like Chu Luyue. As soon as he said that, the crowd began to whisper to him to think of a way to take down Chu Luyue. You're quite good at acting. No matter what, I don't believe that she can pass all 3 exams. Thinking of this, his eyes flashed and he sneered. How can a person with an incomplete Yuan Meridian pass the martial arts exam? A ruthless person. Who knows what methods he used to pass the exam. No matter how many tricks you have, if she really has the ability, why doesn't she directly participate in the warrior assessment and prove her strength? His hands crossed in front of him and he began to circulate the force in his body. But, then, a green wind blade quickly condensed around his body. Doesn't he usually dislike those students with mediocre aptitude and restlessness? The narrow alley became even more cramped because of the appearance of this aura. When Bai Chen heard these words, his face turned cold. The man shouted and he was about to explode. Blade towards Chu This bunch of brats. Chi La, I must. On the bluestone pavement, Chu Lua smiled visible and white scratch mark appeared. Teacher Bai Chen, it extended it's normal for people to have doubts. When the assessment hair flew up and Lu will naturally shut the whistling sound of the wind. Bai Chen looked at her calm. The strong oppressive aura made her mind buzz and even her movements became much slower. Okay. Rank 4 warriors use your strength to shut them up for cultivators. As Bai Chen spoke, although rank 3 warriors could absorb the heaven before explaining, it was only to strengthen their bodies and increase their physical strength in the academy. Only when a rank 4 assessment is also conducted be able to circulate the accumulated force even though all the students are at the back of the mountains, they are separated. No matter if it was the strength or speed of the attack, so you're considered the youngest something batch. A rank 3 warrior could compare to. They're all over there now. This clear wind can just go there already closed in on Chu Lua's face followed his gaze and nodded. Chu Lua even felt a dull pain between her eyebrows. It's more convenient that way. Her eyes were fixed on the green wind blade as her muscles tightened and she held her breath in anticipation. Bai Chen squinted at her and sneered. Previously, she was able to win against Song Lian. He still remembered clearly that Chu Xian mainly because her eyesight around her were bad-mouthing were extremely strong. She definitely did not have any normal person and a rank 3 warrior could be made up for by relying on these. The surrounding people warrior was different. Strangely. The other party could circulate the force treating her like and it was difficult for her to win. Hasn't Chu Xianmin always been liked by the teachers? Although her Yuan meridian had recovered, she had not accumulated much force and she suddenly could not compete with the other party in this aspect. Ling Zhu could not stand it and said she could only resort to trickery. Since she's your sister, it's best that you bring her there. The green wind blade flew over quickly. The assessment is about to start. Waist suddenly leaned back. Chu Lua walked forward. Her body was almost parallel to the ground. Thank you. Third sister. In the next moment, she supported herself like one hand on the ground and borrowed the force to flip over and narrowly avoided the attack. Little Lu Yu is clearly not that easy to bully. The green wind blade slammed into the ground behind her, who was standing in front smashing open and was momentarily dazed. You know how to dodge. It had only been a while since the man was surprised when he saw this and the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. Her skin was smooth, no wonder Song and her eyes were the rest also fell into your hands. Every frown and smile seemed to be able to flash across Chu Liu's eyes. She was just standing there, as expected. But there seemed to be an invisible aura. She had not gone to find them, and the other party had already sent himself to her door. That pair of starry eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. Looks like the uncomfortable feeling in Chu Xianmin's heart grew stronger. The man was stunned and laughed. Even she knew that Chu Liu's looks and elegance had already surpassed hers. Unfortunately, she clenched her teeth and suppressed the jealousy and anger in her heart. Chu Lua was about to say a few more words when she suddenly felt a chill behind her head. Many people's gazes she didn't even think about it as she flew forward. Chu Lua ignored them and quickly followed Chu Xianmin. The place where she was previously standing exploded into a deep pit. The people standing there were clearly the youngest batch of students. Caused the blood in her chest to churn. She immediately looked up and saw that the man who shouted pinned on her left chest was already blocking the entrance of the alley. There was a sword engraved on the nameplate. The most important thing was that he was also a rank 4 warrior. Chu Lua glanced at it and saw a number written on it. The two of them looked at each other and attacked Chu Lua at the same time. That sword was obviously Tian Lu Academy's symbol, and the number represented the batch of students. Chapter 35. Chu Xianmin also had a similar nameplate on her left sleeve. She definitely wasn't a match for 2 stage 4 warriors attacking her from the front and back. The people here are taking the warrior assessment. This didn't mean that she had no other way to deal with taking the Xian master assessment. However, at this moment, you can go over there now. Suddenly rushed out from the side. Chu Lua quickly glanced at the dozens of students standing accompanied by an oppressive roar. Their auras were indeed a little instantly erupted. At this moment, they were looking at Chu Lua with intense scrutiny and undisguised hostility. The two men's attacks collapsed before they could reach Chu Lua. When she was 3 steps away from them, a young man suddenly walked out and blocked Chu Liu's path. The two men couldn't dodge in time and didn't even see who it was. Not everyone is qualified to be a Xian directly crushing them and fell to the ground. This is not a place you should be. Their chests shook, do you understand? And they spat out blood. Chu Lua curled his originally arrogant attitude immediately. She looked up and saw that the nameplate on the young man's left chest was not silver but black. The two men were shocked and furious as they hurriedly looked up. The symbol of a Xian master? However, when they looked, they were all stunned on the spot. This was because the one that had suddenly charged out was actually a muscular white lion. Chapter 47.
Its fur was snow-white.
She looked at the youth in front of her with a cold luster.
He looked to be around 15
its entire
or 16
body
years
exuded
old.
a powerful aura that couldn't
He
be
was tall and
violated.
thin,
And his appearance was clean and delicate.
It just casually swung its claws
However,
and easily
there was an
dissolved
arrogant
the
aura
attacks
around
of the
him
two
that made
stage
people
4
feel
warriors.
uncomfortable.
Seventh grade
Teacher Bai
Heavenly
Chen asked
Lion.
me to come here.
Upon seeing
Are you
who
saying
it
that
was,
this is
the
Teacher
two
Bai
men
Chen's
couldn't
fault?
help but exclaim, and a
Chu
trace of
Luyue
panic
asked
appeared on their
indifferently.
faces. The youth's
Why would this
expression
high-level
changed
flight that
slightly,
only
and he
existed in
frowned.
legend suddenly appeared
Bai
here?
Chen was one of the top
In the
mystic
entire
teachers
country
in the
Yao
academy.
Chen, there were only a few
His
seventh
status
grade
was
fiends,
respected,
and
and
this
even he
heavenly
did not
lion
dare
was
to offend
unheard
him.
of.
If
But
he was
now,
accused of
it
this,
actually
he would
appeared
not
in the
have a good
imperial
ending.
city.
After
Chu
a moment,
Luyue was
he
also
sneered.
very surprised.
Do you only know how to
Shue
use
Shue.
Teacher Bai Chen as a shield?
Why are you here?
If you
It
have the
appeared
ability,
so timely.
show some real skills.
Could it have been following her
Otherwise,
all this time?
even if you enter the
But
academy,
she didn't notice
no
it
one
at
will
all
think
previously.
highly of you. It seemed like she had
Chu
to strengthen
Luyue
her
replied with
cultivation
an
for this
"Oh."
body.
So aren't
After
I here
hearing
to
Chu
participate
Luyue's
in the
words,
assessment?
the corners of the two
You're
men's
blocking my
eyes
way,
twitched violently.
brother.
The
Such
youth's
a
face
familiar
turned
tone.
red from choking.
Chu Luyue
He looked
actually
at
knew
Chu
this
Luyue
seventh
and
grade
wanted to
heavenly
reprimand
lion
her,
long ago,
but he did not know what to say.
It was obvious that she was
See
here
Yang,
to help her.
come back. It would be fine
At
if
this
other
moment,
helpers
a
came,
clear voice
but the
sounded.
two of them weren't considered weak
Although
when
the
they
tone
joined
was
forces.
calm,
It carried a faint
but
dignity
now,
that made
standing
people
in front
unable
of
to
them was
defy
a
it.
genuine seventh-grade
Chu
heavenly
Luyue
lion.
looked up and realized that the
As
voice
long as
came
it
from
raised
another
its
youth
claws,
standing behind
it
the
could
crowd.
easily take their lives.
When she saw the youth's
What
appearance
exactly
clearly,
was going on
Chu
with Chu
Luyue
Luyue?
raised her brows. She actually had
This
such a
person's
backer behind
appearance
her.
was extremely good.
After hearing Chu
He had
Luyue's
sharp
words,
eyebrows and
Shue
bright
Shue,
eyes.
who was originally filled
He was
with
very
murderous
handsome,
intent,
and his facial
instantly
features
retracted
seemed to
its
have been
cold
carved
aura
by a
and
knife.
lowered its head to rub against
He
Chu
stood there
Luyue's
surrounded by
waist.
people,
But those
a
people
low
added
hiss came
together
out
were
from its
not as
throat
eye-catching
as though it was
as
acting
him.
coquettish.
Under the sunlight,
Chu
the
Luyue
shadows
stroked
of the
its
trees
soft and
swayed.
fluffy fur and secretly
He stood
heaved
with
a
his
sigh
hands
of
behind
relief.
his back like a sword that
With
was
Shue's
about to be
appearance,
unsheathed.
Shue's and Chu
He had a
Luyue's
frighteningly
back.
sharp aura.
Shue
The nameplate in front of his chest
He
was
sent
also
you here.
black and white. Asked Chu
He
Luyue
was clearly
as her
a
eyes
mystic.
darted around. This person was not simple.
St.
Chu Luyue thought to herself. When she
came
came over just now, she did not notice this person at all. Shue Shue had
Logically
always had a
speaking,
strong
his
desire
aura
to
was
live.
so
obvious that she
Chu
definitely would
Luyue
not have
burst
missed
out
it.
laughing.
There was only
Looking
one
at Shue Shue's
possibility.
awkward
This
expression,
youth had
she
completely
could roughly
concealed
guess
his
what
aura
Shue
just
Shue
now.
was thinking.
Being able
Both
to
the
do this was
master and
enough to
servant
prove
were
that his
probably
strength was
involved in this
definitely
matter.
not weak. This
As if
Rongxiu.
noticing Chu Luyue's
What
gaze,
exactly is
the
he
young
thinking?
man's gaze shifted slightly
This question
and he also
quickly
flashed
flashed
through
through
Chu Luyue's mind.
A hint of
but he
surprise
didn't show it
flashed
on his
through his
face.
eyes. Instead,
He had seen
he
this
looked at
first
the
miss
two
of the
people
Chu
again.
clan before.
Right now,
His impression
he had
of
to
her
solve the
was
most
that she had a
important
timid
problem first.
personality.
The two
Why
of
did
them
she
looked
seem
at
to
each
have
other and
changed
saw
into
the
a different
panic in
person
each
now?
other's eyes. When the youth
Now
called
that
Xi
Chu
Yang
Luyue
heard
had
this
the help
voice,
of the
he
seventh
pursed his
stage
lips
heavenly
and looked
lion.
at Chu Luyue. It was no longer something they
Let's
could
see
deal
who's
with. The real deal later.
Go.
Chu Luyue
Without
shrugged her
hesitation,
shoulders,
the
and
two
did
of them
not got up
comment.
and fled in two different
She
directions.
wasn't sure
if he had that ability.
Chu Luyue smirked.
But the name Xi Yang,
Shue
they
snorted,
seemed to be from
and then
the
her
Xi
figure
family,
suddenly
the leader of
vanished.
the four great families.
In the
next moment, it
Big
appeared
brother.
in front of one of the men. It quickly raised its claws
Xi Yang
and slapped
walked up
the
to the
man's
man
chest and became much more obedient.
Whoosh.
His
Luyue
clothes were
immediately
instantly torn
understood.
apart, and blood splattered
was him.
everywhere as he flew out. There were many talented people
Bang.
in the younger generation of
He
the
was
Xi
heavily
family,
smashed onto
and the
the
most
ground
famous
by the
of them
powerful
all was the
impact.
eldest young master of
A
the
long
Xi
trail
family.
of blood
Xi
was
Ting.
drawn out.
Half a year
It only
ago,
stopped
he
when
had
he hit
entered
the
the
wall.
Tianlu Academy as
The
the
other
top
man's
Xian
fate
master
wasn't
in the
any better.
examination. He didn't
At
even
that
manage
time,
to
a
escape
teacher
out of
at
the alley
Tianlu
before he was
Academy
thrown
had
out by
praised
Xi
Xi
Ting
Ting
for his exceptional
He
talent in
crashed
this area.
beside
the first man. He would become one of the
How
most
strong was the
outstanding
seventh
Xian
stage
masters in
heavenly
country
lion?
Yao Chen within a few years.
These
two fourth-stage warriors
caused
didn't
a
even have the
huge
chance
commotion
to
at that
struggle
time.
and escape in Shue Shue's
Xi
hands.
Ting
received even more
They were
praise and
defeated.
support than Chu Xianmin.
In a blink of
who
an
had gotten
eye,
first
the
place
situation
in the warrior
was reversed.
examination. Chu
However,
Luyue walked
half
in
a
front
year
of the
had
two
passed,
men and looked
and
down
Chu
at them. Xianmin's abilities and
Speak,
reputation
who
kept
is your master?
increasing. The
On
two
the other
men were
hand,
on the verge
Xi
of death,
Ting seemed to
but they
have
refused
completely quieted down.
Chu
As
Luyue
time
crossed
passed,
her arms
everyone
and smiled
gradually
faintly,
only remembered how outstanding
unwilling
Chu
to say.
Xianmin was. Then why don't
Have
I
you
guess?
studied the 8
You are
water
the crown
formations
prince's
that I
men.
showed you a few days ago?
The two men were shocked
Asked
and looked at her
Si
subconsciously. Si Yang hurriedly
But in the
nodded.
next moment,
they realized
of course,
something and hurriedly looked away.
Big Brother said that as long
However,
as I understand
this reaction
formation,
was enough. I have hope of breaking through
Song
from a level
Lian's
1 Xian
real
master to a
background
level
is
2
Song
Xian
Yuan,
master.
right?
So,
what are you
I've been
talking
studying
about?
it all these days.
We don't understand.
Someone at the side could
The
not
two
help
men
but
weren't
say,
dumb,
and they
Ting,
forcefully
while you
denied
were
it.
in seclusion.
Chu
Yong had
Luyue
already
didn't care at
successfully
all.
broken through to a level 2
This matter was
Xian
actually
master.
very easy to guess.
Yong could not help
There
but
were
look
only a
happy
few
and
people
proud.
who hated her and wanted
Big
her to
brother,
die completely
even though I can't
outside.
compare to you, I don't
There were
dare
even
to slack
fewer
off.
people who could send a stage 4
I've been
warrior
cultivating
to deal
hard.
with her.
To Rong
Ting's
Jin,
face then
killing
revealed
her
a
10
smile
times
that wasn't
as
enough
bright
to
as the
appease
moon
his
breaking
hatred
through
due
the
to the new
clouds.
and old grudges.
That's good.
It was a pity that this
Yong
person
suddenly
wasn't
thought
very
of something
smart.
and leaned closer to ask.
Back then,
Big
he
brother,
lost Song
have you
Yan,
heard?
but he didn't know how to
The
be more
rewards for
careful
this
and sent two
examination
people
seem
to
to
kill
be very
her so
generous.
carelessly.
It
Especially
doesn't
the
matter
first
if you
place.
don't admit it.
It seems like
Chu
everyone
Luyue didn't
get
even
ready.
care about the two of them
Before
as she
he
turned
could
to
finish
look at
speaking,
Shui.
the examiner's voice was heard.
I need to trouble you
At the
with
same
something.
time, all the students
Take
immediately
these two away.
quietened down. The warrior examination
Shui
is
looked
in the
at her in
first zone.
confusion.
The
If they
Xian
want to
master
kill me,
examination
can't they
is in the
just kill
second
me?
zone.
The
Luyue
celestial
suddenly
physician
turned around and
examination
picked up
is
the
in the
pouch
third
that the
zone.
man threw away.
All
and
the
her eyes
examinations
curved.
will be conducted at the
Let's
same
go.
time. The room
As he
was so
spoke,
quiet
the
that it
teacher
was
started
almost
to bring the
suffocating.
students to the different
Yan
examination
Xin
areas.
lowered his head and felt that the
Chu
air around
Luyue
his
and
master
the
was
rest were
extremely
quickly brought
cold
to the
as if it
second
could
zone.
freeze people to death.
There were teachers waiting
His
for him
master
there
had
as
always
well.
been expressionless and
Chu
rarely
Luyue
showed
saw
any
that
emotions.
everyone here, regardless
But
of
now,
whether they were
his
teachers
master
or
was like
students,
this just
was
because
a
that
Xian
person
master
didn't
without
come on
exception.
time.
Master,
She
Big
looked
Chu
back
Missy
and
is here.
realized that the three
At this
examination
moment,
areas were
Yumo's
actually very
voice
close to
suddenly
each
came
other.
from outside the door.
They could even see each
Almost
other,
instantly,
but the areas
Yan
were
Qing
separated.
felt a slight change in his
Welcome
master's
to the
aura.
Xian master examination.
He quickly looked up and indeed
A teacher
saw that
stood
his
in
master
front
was
and
looking
spoke
outside
loudly.
the door.
Actually,
Looking out
this
from the
examination
half-open
is
door,
very simple.
he could vaguely see a blurry
Do you
and
see the
slender
forest in
silhouette
front of
behind
you?
Yumo in the dark night.
Master, I'll invite
As long
Big
as you
Chu
enter
Missy
from
in
here,
now.
pass through the forest,
Said Yan
and get the
Qing
flag on the other
as if
side.
a huge burden
You'll
had
pass.
been lifted from his shoulders.
Not only did the dozens
Rong
of
Xiu's
students not
eyes,
relax,
which were as
but
deep
they
as
also
the starry
became
night,
nervous, flashed slightly.
Everyone knew that this
After a
forest was
moment,
definitely
he looked
not that
serious,
simple to pass
adjusted
through.
his clothes, and
There
picked
must
up the
be a
book again.
Xian formation set up inside.
However, you have to listen carefully.
Chapter 36.
After entering,
He won't
everyone
see
must
anyone.
complete the battle alone.
Chu Luyue heard this
If you
clearly.
discover that anyone is teaming
She
up,
immediately
your
stopped
results
in her
will be
tracks
nullified.
and raised her eyebrows.
Speaking of this,
Yumo
the teacher's
was
also
expression
stunned when he
suddenly
heard
became
this.
much more serious.
He won't see anyone.
There will be teachers
But the
monitoring
master had
entire
clearly said that he
examination
would not
process.
see anyone else. If you have any thoughts,
Only first
keep
Miss
them
Chu
to yourself.
was to be reported to him
Understand?
immediately.
Yes, that was why he
The
dared to
student's
bring her in
expressions
directly.
became serious.
Why? Did
Actually,
Master say
this
that he
rule
wouldn't
was
see
very
her?
normal.
He gave Yan
After
Qing
all,
a look.
the
What's
Xian
going
master
on?
examination was based
Yan
on
Qing
one's
also
ability.
felt bitter. How would
If
I
they
know?
teamed up, what was
He
the
saw
point?
with his own eyes that
All
Master
right,
had waited
now,
for first
I
Miss
announce.
Chu the entire day.
The Xian master
It was
examination
impossible for him not
begins.
to see her.
The moment
Wasn't
the
he
teacher
still angry
finished
that
speaking,
first Miss
he
Chu
threw
didn't
something
come?
out.
Now that she
Bang.
finally came,
A
why
bright
wasn't Master
firework
happy?
exploded in midair.
Instead, he didn't
Let's
even
go.
want to see her. The moment the
Master,
firework exploded,
this.
someone had already
First
rushed
Miss
in
Chu,
without
Rong
hesitation.
Xiu looked up and quietly
In the blink of an
glanced at
eye,
Yan Qing.
their figures disappeared
Yan
into the
Qing
dense
immediately
forest.
swallowed the words in
What's
his
the
throat.
hurry? He
The Xian
obediently
master
lowered his head
examination
again and
isn't
stood
just about
aside
running
immediately.
fast.
Rong
Xiu
Xiu
retracted
retracted
and
his
then
gaze and
glanced at
turned to
Si Ting.
page.
Big
The night
brother,
wind blew.
I'm leaving first.
He clenched his fist
Since they
and
couldn't
coughed
work
a few
together,
times. It was better for them to
However,
split up. That pair of eyes never
Si
looked
Ting
at Chu
nodded.
Luyue from the start to
Everyone
the end.
left one by one.
Chu
and
Luyue
soon,
didn't
only
delay
Chu
and looked at
Luyue
Yumo.
and Si Ting
Since your
were
master
left.
isn't feeling well,
I
Si
won't
Ting was
disturb
about
him.
to lift his leg when he
Please
realized
pass on
that
this
Chu
item and
Luyue
thank
was
your master
faster
for
than
his
him
help
and
on
took
my
3
behalf.
steps to the right. As she spoke, she handed over the handkerchief in her pouch. Yumo's eyelids twitched when he
Chapter
saw the
48.
handkerchief. A
Isn't
Xian
this
formation
master's
had
personal
already been set
handkerchief?
up in this forest. Usually, Master
moment they
treasures
entered
this
the
handkerchief
forest,
very
the
much
test
and
had
almost
already
never
begun.
leaves his side. Si Ting
But
had already
why is it
realized
with Chu
that this
Luyue
Xian
now?
formation was a little
He
special.
didn't enter the palace that day
It was
and
actually a
naturally
little
didn't know
troublesome
the
to
inside
enter from their
story.
current position. Master was actually
However,
willing to
this
give
was
this to Chu
obviously
Luyue,
done by the
first
Academy's
Miss Chu,
teachers on
this.
purpose.
Yumo hesitated
Only
and
the
wanted
truly
to take
talented
it,
and
but
capable
capable Xian masters could recognize this Xian formation. He shuddered and immediately refused from another direction. Righteous indignation. This was also why he did not follow the others and stayed at the back. It's better that you give it to him. He did not intend to enter from this entrance at all. Chu Luyue, isn't it just a handkerchief? He did not expect that other. Why did he make it so? There was actually someone else who could do this. She also wanted to give it to him. Furthermore, This person had to be Chu Luyue, who had just entered the academy. But now that Rong Xiu said that he didn't want to see him, mind raced as he glanced at Chu Luyue without batting in that direction again. Was this just a half-open door, or she could see the tall figure reclining on the bed? Chu Luyue naturally sensed Si Ting's attention, but she did not hesitate, as if it had been meticulously carved. She continued to take a few steps back and avoided the entrance. His eyes drooped slightly. She chose to walk in another direction. If we wait any longer, the first place will be mine. Why was he angry? Chu Luyue turned around. After thinking for a while, Chu Luyue still couldn't understand what he was taken aback. Thus, in that instant, she decided not to dwell surrounding directly looked overshadowed. The girl in red seemed to have gathered all the light on her body. Anything. Thank you for your help. It was brilliant and dazzling, but I don't like owing favors. Her obsidian-like eyes were even brighter and more breathtaking than all of this. To avoid trouble, everything around them became blurry at this moment. Only this girl became the only color. She didn't look at Rong Xiu's reaction and wanted to skip to the handkerchief to Umo. He felt something brush past him. I really don't know what to do with this person. Chu Luyue had already disappeared into the dense forest, and his gaze landed on Chu Luyue. He could only see a strand of her hair fluttering in the wind. No, you still owe me 2 favors. Closed his eyes and suppressed the ripple in his heart. Chu Luyue's heart skipped a beat. After hesitating for a moment, he also took a few steps back and entered from another direction. His tone was as gentle and light as usual. The teachers in charge of the test only recovered from their shock after all the students had killed you today wasn't the crown prince's man. They looked at each other in disbelief. Chu Luyue's eyes turned cold. How did Chu Luyue enter from that direction? The imperial city seemed peaceful. Only a third-level Qian master can recognize this formation. Crown Prince Mansion. Logically speaking, only Si Ting should be able to enter from the correct direction. Another gray-robed elder were in the room. How did Chu Luyue do it? Are you sure that although a 7th grade fiend had been very quiet for the past half a year, the teachers in the academy all knew that he had broken through to become a level 3 mystic cultivator a few days ago. That 7th grade fiend only appeared for a short while. With such talent and ability, but I've already checked. In the entire country there are indeed traces of a 7th grade fiend. Even if he were to compete with those senior brothers and sisters of the imperial he would almost never lose. The elder stroked his beard. It was normal for him to be able to see through the profound formations. I'm sure that it's not just any fiend that exists. What's going on with Chu Luyue? It's definitely I told you that Luyue is a genius. Also, there's a high chance that it has an owner. Rong Jin knitted his brows tightly. When the results of the competition are out, make sure your eyeballs don't fall to the 7th grade fiend. At this moment, who could it be? Bai Chen had also walked over. The elder shook his head. He wasn't the teacher in charge of the examination, imperial so he could only watch from the side. The other party isn't easy to deal with since they have a 7th grade fiend. But that didn't stop him from coming to watch the show. If the other party is coming for you, let me tell you, have to be even more careful. If Luyue chooses a teacher, the elder shook his head, will be the first one. Even though you're the crown prince now, don't you dare fight with me. There are still many people coveting that position. Bai Chen said with a smile of exultation. Your marriage agreement with Chu Luyue. When he saw that Chu Luyue had chosen His Majesty is very unhappy with you. He couldn't help but applaud in his heart. You can't create any more trouble when the results of the examination are out. At the mention of let's see if these people will still look at Luyue with the same expression. It's all Chu Luyue's fault. It seems like she's just a good for nothing. Indeed talented. There's nothing to be afraid of. Even if he keep can't a low profile during this period he's already of time pretty and good. Wait for the storm to blow over. One of the teachers nodded. The most important thing is to increase your abilities, so let His Majesty see your abilities. There was nothing to hide. Took a deep breath and nodded. Can't compare to Si Ting. You're right. Bai Chen I'll remember your teachings. And grinned. This year is your last year at Tianlu Academy. You have to grab that opportunity. Chapter 49. Do you understand? When Chu Luyue entered the forest, the news of a 7th grade fiend appearing in the imperial city spread like wildfire and quickly spread. It was obvious that this Xian formation was completely controlled by the academy's teachers. Knew about it as well. Whatever happened this made her eager to give it a try. Would be the first to know. The fiends from before were narrowed her eyes and stayed in the same spot. Now that a rare 7th grade fiend had finally appeared, she seemed to be hesitant as she chose a direction and walked in that direction. If she could capture it and make it kind of Xian formation, how awesome would that be for her? Hence, if she wanted to, she could directly walk out of it using the most correct and convenient path. But after the previous it was as if the incident already of roughly knew what kind of standard had never happened to be the most suitable. Even the disappearance of the two people did not started to walk slowly in the forest. Under this seemingly since she had already entered the academy, everything else was easy from Tianlu Academy. As for the first place, Tianlu Academy she really wasn't to His Majesty's request and gave she agreed to participate in the assessment this time to take the because she hoped to let those people know that she wasn't so easy to bully. She could enter Tianlu Academy she could save a lot of trouble in the future. The 10th of August she said just now was just 14th birthday. Chu Luyue
It was
walked
also
like
the
this
day
for
that
about
Chu
half an
Luyue
hour
went to
before she reached a fork in the road.
entrance exam.
These three
Chu
paths
Ning
all
had
extended
already
into the
personally
forest,
made
but
longevity
they led to
noodles
different
for her.
directions. In her previous
Looking
life,
forward from
every
here,
birthday
other than
of
the
hers
dense
was
trees,
extremely grand.
she couldn't see anything else.
Countless people celebrated
This was the time
and
for
a
her
long
to make
list
a
of all
choice.
kinds of gifts could be made.
Chu Luyue stood at the fork
Although
in the
Chu
road
Ning
and
was
was
the only
silent for
one
a moment.
accompanying her now. This
Then,
bowl of
she
longevity
chose the middle
noodles made her
path.
feel even more warm
Not
and
long
fulfilled.
after she walked on this path,
Chu Luyue
a whistling
finished
gust
the
of
noodles,
wind suddenly
packed up,
attacked,
and headed to Tianlu
the trees
Academy.
shook violently.
Chu Ning wanted
Some
to
of the
follow
leaves
her,
carried a
but she
terrifying
rejected
aura
him.
and flew towards
She
Chu
knew
Luyue.
that Chu Ning had been busy with some things recently. The sound of
In
air
her
breaking
opinion,
was incessant.
entering the academy was very
Biting,
simple.
cold, killing intent
There was no
surrounded her
need
from
for
all
so many
directions.
people to accompany her.
However,
When
eyes
Chu
were still
Luyue
calm.
arrived at Tianlu
She wasn't
Academy's
surprised
entrance,
at all.
She realized that there
In
were
the next
already
moment,
many people
she
waiting
tiptoed
there.
and her figure flew out
When
quickly.
Chu Luyue's figure appeared,
She narrowly avoided
immediately
the attracted
attracted the attention
leaves.
of countless people.
At the same time,
Chu
on the
Luyue
other side of the
understood.
forest, two middle-aged
These people
men
were
and an old
obviously
man
here
were
to see a
sitting in a
joke.
circle. A
The
middle-aged
three
man
of them
stood
were
in front of
meditating with their
Tianlu
eyes
Academy's
closed.
entrance with a stern
They
expression.
looked like they were asleep.
He looked at Chu Luyue
However,
with faint
in the middle of
impatience
them,
in his eyes.
there was a
silver Xian formation. It was shining brightly. Several silver lines intersected and overlapped, forming an extremely complicated pattern. Suddenly, one of the lines violently jumped. A man opened his eyes and asked in surprise, "How long has it been?" "He's already here. This Chu Luyue looks like he really is a genius mystic cultivator." The old man also opened his eyes and stroked his beard with a smile. Not bad. Among so many people, only she and Si Ting had walked in the right direction from the start. Although her choice wasn't as good as Si Ting's, it's still very outstanding. The last person hesitated for a moment and shook his head. It's a pity that this girl doesn't walk in an orderly manner. She probably hasn't learned much about Xian formations and is just making guesses based on her feelings. Look, isn't this the wrong way? The old man narrowed his eyes and suddenly asked. This old man remembers that Chu Luyue didn't have a good time in the Chu family? The Chu family shouldn't have hired a teacher for her, right? Elder son, you mean? Sun Zhongyan lowered his eyes and glanced at the profound formation. The line that had been fluctuating intensely earlier had already calmed down. He let out a meaningful laugh. Although that girl walked in the wrong direction, she doesn't seem to be injured. Heh, such talent has really been wasted by the Chu family. At this moment, a star suddenly lit up on the profound formation. The two middle-aged men were shocked. Chapter 50. Si Ting is extremely talented. He seems to have improved a lot during this period of time. It is not surprising that he was able to find the array core. Sun Zhongyan did not seem surprised as he waved his hand. However, I am surprised that he has been keeping a low profile ever since he entered the academy. Why is it that today, it was not his style to show off like this? Or has he sensed that an opponent who can threaten him has appeared? Sun Zhongyan muttered softly. The other two looked at each other with a puzzled expression. Threaten? Elder son, are you serious? Is there someone who can threaten Si Ting among the students in the academy? Outsiders might not know, but as Xian masters, they knew how talented and powerful Si Ting was. It was not an exaggeration to say that even Si Ting's seniors from 2 batches before him might not be his match. Didn't you say that Si Ting's talent as a Xian master is only seen once in 100 years? Sun Zhongyan stretched out a finger and pointed at the Xian formation in the middle of the 3 men. Look carefully. Chu Luyue has been walking in a disorderly manner, but she has been walking in the same direction. Hearing this, the 2 men looked down in confusion. Starting from where she had entered, she had been walking toward the array core. Even though the process in the middle was a little messy, Chu Luyue was indeed heading toward the formation's eye as a whole. How is this possible? She is not even a first-level Xian master. How could she have found the array core? She must have been guessing based on her intuition. The 2 men's faces were filled with disbelief. Sun Zhongyan chuckled. If she did not walk in the wrong direction at the three-way junction, she should have reached the array core by now. Maybe, she will be faster than Si Ting. His words made the other two men fall into silence. They did not speak for a long time. No wonder Bai Chen was so excited just now. It seems that he has indeed discovered a rare genius. Sun Zhongyan looked at the Xian formation with interest. He was very curious about Chu Luiyue. She was either not familiar with Xian formations or, she was deliberately hiding her abilities. Chu Luiyue walked through the forest. At a certain point, she suddenly stopped and closed her eyes. She carefully felt the changes in the Xian formation. "We're finally here," Chu Luiyue murmured and opened his eyes. Si Ting should have reached the eye of the array, so she could go too. Firstly, she was not interested and did not intend to reveal her background today. However, their results couldn't be too bad, or else they would be called trash in the future. She took a deep breath, turned around, and headed forward. When Si Ting arrived at the eye of the array, he realized that there was no one there. He heaved a silent sigh of relief. It seemed that no one was ahead of him. But then, he suddenly frowned. Why would he be worried that someone would beat him to it? He had absolute confidence in himself and had never felt like this before. What was wrong with him today? Could it be because of what Chu Luiyue said? Si Ting clenched his fists tightly. In fact, he did feel a dangerous aura from Chu Luiyue. He did not know where this feeling came from, but his intuition told him that Chu Luiyue was definitely not a simple person. Fortunately, he was the first to reach the eye of the formation. As long as he reached this point, the competition was basically over. Si Ting waved his hand, and a silver line flew out. It formed a strange pattern in mid-air. After a while, the silver line shook violently and then disappeared. Si Ting looked in the direction that the line had pointed to and was about to walk in that direction. Just as he moved, he heard footsteps behind him. Almost instinctively, he turned his head to look. A slender and tall girl's figure came into view. Chu Luiyue looked up, and their eyes met. She smiled and shrugged. Chapter 51. Si Ting looked at the young girl in front of him and quickly scanned her body. She was unscathed. She looked as if she had not encountered any trouble at all. However, that was not right. If Chu Luiyue had walked in the wrong direction and triggered the Xian formation, she would have encountered some problems. However, she looked as if she had just walked over casually. If she had not encountered any accidents, she should have arrived a long time ago. At the very least, she should have arrived around the same time as him. However, she was one step too late. Si Ting wanted to see something from Chu Luiyue's face, but there was only calmness in the depths of her bright eyes. He couldn't see anything. It was as if nothing in this world could shake her mind. "You are very fast," Si Ting said briefly. Chu Luiyue spread out her hands. "I am still a little slower than you." Si Ting did not say anything else and turned to walk forward. There was no suspense in this competition. The only variable was Chu Luiyue. However, it was obvious that she did not intend to use her abilities, so it would not be too late to investigate in the future. Chu Luiyue did not say anything else and continued walking forward. As she passed by a certain area, she looked at the millstone-like stone under her feet. Who would have thought that this was the core of the Xian formation? This ordinary-looking stone actually contained the most powerful energy in the entire Xian formation. As long as she walked past this place, she would not be far from the exit. Si Ting's figure quickly disappeared, and Chu Luiyue followed closely behind. When Si Ting walked out of the forest without any obstructions, Sun Zhongyan and the other two were already waiting there. He pulled out the flag easily, and at the same time, a firework flew into the sky from the flag. Boom! As the firework bloomed in the sky, it meant that the first place of the Xian Master assessment had been revealed. Si Ting, you have indeed improved a lot. This time, you only took less than an hour to come out. Sun Zhongyan praised him. Si Ting looked calm as he cupped his fists and bowed. Thank you for the compliment, Elder Sunday. I still have many shortcomings. You are only 15 years old this year, but you are already a level 3 Xian Master. You have a bright future ahead of you. Another middle-aged man laughed. Hearing this, Si Ting's expression changed slightly. He seemed to want to say something, but in the end, he swallowed his words. He turned around and looked at the forest. Sure enough, it didn't take long for a beautiful face to appear before his eyes. It was Chu Luiyue. There wasn't much difference in the time the two of them took to reach the finish line. Sun Zhongyan and the other two began to seriously size up Chu Luiyue. This rumored good-for-nothing girl turned out to be like this. Chu Luiyue walked over and pulled out the second flag. When the firework flew into the sky, the other students who were competing in the back of the mountain were all shocked. The first area of the warrior assessment immediately became noisy. How did the Xian Master assessment progress so quickly? The senior sisters said that it would take several hours. This should be the first place, right? That's still a bit early. Guess who will be the first? Who else could it be? With Si Ting around, no one can get first place, right? At this moment, a deep and powerful voice rang in everyone's ears. First place for the 453rd Xian Master assessment, Si Ting. Once the voice was heard, the crowd exploded. It's really him. According to this efficiency, Si Ting is definitely a stage 3 Xian Master, right? I haven't heard much about him in the past half a year, so I thought he had gone quiet. I didn't expect him to get first place without anyone noticing. Yeah. Chu Xianmin can't compare to his talent at all. How can a warrior be compared to a Xian Master? Some people whispered and kept looking at Chu Xianmin. Chu Xianmin forced herself to hold it in and pretended that she didn't hear anything, but her nails were already digging deep into her palms. This limelight has been stolen by Si Ting. However, it didn't matter. After all, Si Ting was from the Si family and had nothing to do with her. As long as she could teach Chu Luiyue a lesson today, bang! The second firework flew into the sky again. Everyone was stunned. Is the second place for the Xian Master assessment? There was only a slight delay in the timing. F***CK. Who's so powerful to be able to get second place right after Si Ting? A few questions came from the crowd. The voice from before sounded again. Chapter 52. Although Tian Lu Academy's assessment was divided into different periods and was conducted in 3 different areas, they would usually announce the top 3. To a certain extent, this was a reward for the outstanding students. At the same time, it could also motivate the other students. It was not strange for Si Ting's name to appear in first place in the Xian Master assessment. However, what right did Chu Luiyue have to take second place? The noisy back mountain instantly fell into dead silence. Chu Xianmin's body stiffened as chills ran down her back. Her entire body seemed to be out of her control. Her mind was blank. Only one sentence kept echoing in her mind. It almost made her brain explode. Chu Luiyue. Second place in the Xian Master assessment. How could it be? How could it be? Being a Xian Master required a lot of talent. Even she did not have the luck to become a Xian Master, let alone that good-for-nothing Chu Luiyue. Soon, the crowd started discussing. Chu Luiyue is second place. Is there really no mistake? No matter how I think about it, it doesn't seem right. Didn't they say that Chu Luiyue is a good-for-nothing with an incomplete Yuan meridian? Could there be a misunderstanding? Even if she passed the assessment, how could she be second place? One had to know that other than Si Ting, there were dozens of outstanding Xian master talents participating in the assessment. These people had studied in the academy for more than half a year. How could they not even compare to Chu Luiyue? Someone spoke hesitantly. This. Could it be true? Maybe she really has amazing talent as a Xian master? If that's the case, Teacher Bai Chen's attitude can also be explained. That's impossible. Chu Xianmin screamed almost subconsciously. When the crowd looked over, she realized that she had lost her composure and immediately explained in a panic. I am saying that Sister's Yuan Meridian is indeed incomplete. If she had talent as a Xian master, there's no way her family wouldn't know. I don't know how she did it either. In other words, Chu Liuyue's second place was not legitimate. Someone chuckled. Chu Xianmin, you stole the crown prince's favor. Even if something really happened, Chu Luiyue wouldn't tell you, right? This caused the crowd to burst into laughter. The entire imperial city knew about what happened at the crown prince's birthday banquet a few days ago. Chu Xianmin took the initiative to offer herself to the crown prince to gain his favor, which ultimately led to the cancellation of the engagement between Chu Luiyue and the crown prince. With such grievances, how could the two sides still have any sisterly affection? To think that Chu Xianmin looked as if she was thinking for Chu Luiyue just now. Her acting skills were really good. Chu Xianmin's face immediately flushed red, and her entire body felt like it was on fire. Chu Xianmin, are you saying this on purpose because you're afraid that Chu Luiyue will steal your limelight? I didn't. Chu Xianmin immediately denied it, but the mocking gazes around her made her feel uneasy. She gritted her teeth. In the past, everyone had said that the position of the crown prince's consort would belong to none other than her. Each and every one of them had tried to curry favor with her. How could they dare to say such a thing? But now, her reputation had been ruined. No matter what, the title of crown princess would never belong to her. These people immediately turned hostile, ridiculing her to the extreme. I just think it's a little strange. After all, the Xian master assessment this time is too fast. Who knows, Chu Xianmin, are you doubting elder son? Questioned Ling Zhu with a frown. Sun Zhongyan was highly respected in the academy. Not to mention these students, even most of the teachers did not dare to be rash. Chu Xianmin shuddered and finally lowered her head. I don't dare. Seeing her like this, Ling Zhu secretly shook his head. He originally thought that Chu Xianmin was smart, but he did not expect her to be so narrow-minded. The semi-finals are about to start. Doing your own thing is the most important thing. Chu Xianmin nodded and took a deep breath. Now, she only had the hope of regaining her lost ground if she took first place in the warrior assessment. In another area at the back of the mountain, the 451st batch of students' assessment was in progress. Rong Jin stood there and checked his sword. The few youths behind him looked fervent. Your Highness, it looks like you're going to take first place in the warrior assessment this time. Your Highness should be the strongest in the entire academy now, right? Rong Jin chuckled and looked into the distance. That's nothing, Peng. A firework exploded in midair. Rong Jin took a look and squinted his eyes slightly. A youth beside him laughed. Si Ting already took first place in the Xian Master assessment. It looks like the warrior assessment's first place is out too. Another youth's eyes turned and chuckled. Yeah. The warrior assessment's first place should still be Chu Xianmin, right? Rong Jin paused, and his expression softened. She's quite talented. If Chu Xianmin took first place, her reputation would recover a little, and he would look better. A low and thick voice sounded. The 453rd batch of Xian Master Assessment students. Second place, Chu Luiyue. Chapter 53. Chu Luiyue. When Rong Jin heard this name during Tianlu Academy's assessment, he almost suspected that he was hallucinating. "This is the same name, right?" said a few youths uncertainly when they saw his strange expression. Rong Jin put away his sword, and his face was as dark as water. "Go and ask what's going on." "Yes." One of the youths hurriedly turned around and left. The remaining few people looked at each other in dismay. They were all a little confused. His Highness hated Chu Luyue to the core. Now that he heard this name, he naturally wouldn't be in a good mood. The few of them instantly quietened down as they were afraid of angering Rong Jin. However, they weren't the only ones who heard this sentence. The other students waiting for the assessment at the side also heard it clearly. Some people started to secretly look at Rong Jin and secretly wondered if this Chu Luyue was the one who caused a commotion recently. Who is this Chu Luyue? Is he a dark horse that suddenly appeared among the juniors? I don't know. Anyway, I've never heard of him before. However, it shouldn't be him, right? Hey! I suddenly thought of something. Didn't that Chu Luyue say that he wanted to enter our academy? If I remember correctly, it should be today, right? Sure. Lower your voice. Didn't you see how terrible the Crown Prince's expression is? Besides, how can that Chu Luyue pass the assessment? I think there must be a mistake. The surrounding whispers reached Rong Jin's ears, and his expression became even darker. Yes, I almost forgot. That Chu Luyue's only condition for breaking off the engagement was to enter Tianlu Academy. No, definitely not, Your Highness. A shout broke the silence. It was the young man who had gone to scout for information. He had returned. When Rong Jin saw that person, he took a step forward and quickly asked, "What happened? What's going on over there?" Even Rong Jin himself didn't realize that his voice had a tinge of unconcealable nervousness. "Your Highness, the second place for the Xian Master assessment is indeed Chu Luyue." The young man gasped for breath. Rong Jin's heart sank, but he still held on to the last bit of hope. "There's someone with this name in this batch of students?" The young man paused and awkwardly avoided Rong Jin's gaze. "Yes, there is someone called Chu Luyue." Rong Jin closed his eyes and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Sure enough, it was the same name. He knew it. How could Chu Luyue be a Xian master? Your Highness," the teenager knew that he had misunderstood. He shrunk his neck and explained in a trembling voice, "This Chu Luyue is that." Rong Jin was dazed. "What did you say?" The youth had a long face. Chu Luyue was admitted to the academy today. Furthermore, she directly participated in the Mystic Cultivator assessment as a new student and obtained second place. Now, the students and teachers over there were already boiling with excitement. It won't be long before everyone on our side knows about it. It was to the extent that this news would spread to everyone's ears in less than an hour. The good-for-nothing Chu Luyue that everyone could bully not only successfully entered Tianlu Academy, but he also obtained second place for the midterm Xian Master assessment on the day he entered the academy. This would definitely cause an uproar in the entire imperial city. Rong Jin didn't recover his senses for a while. Then, he grabbed the young man's collar and shouted angrily, "What nonsense are you talking about? How can someone with a blocked Yuan meridian be a Xian master? Your Highness. How would I dare to lie to you?" This was something that elder son Zhongyan had personally said. Moreover. He swallowed his saliva and wanted to cry. That Chu Luyue passed all 3 assessments and got into the academy. Teacher Baichen said that Chu Luyue is a rare genius that only appears once every few decades. He'll definitely have a bright future in the future. Bang! Chapter 54. What could be more laughable than this? During the years of their engagement, she was cowardly and lowly, causing him to lose face. However, the moment the engagement was cancelled, she transformed into a genius that everyone envied? Rong Jin refused to believe it no matter what, but he knew that the academy would never make such a mistake. Then, this meant that Chu Luiyue was really a Xian master genius. The crowd was stunned when they heard this, including those who were joking earlier. They were just joking, but who knew that it was true? Some people looked at Rong Jin with complicated gazes. How unlucky must he be to encounter this? The moment the engagement was cancelled, the other person became a highly sought-after genius, and she was even a Xian master. An outstanding Xian master genius was much more precious and popular than a normal warrior genius. If Chu Luiyue had won second place with her own abilities, she would have really made a comeback in the future. From now on, countless people would be begging for her favor. However, Rong Jin actually gave up on such a rare Xian master genius fiancé and chose Chu Xianmin. Even though Chu Xianmin was quite talented, she was still a warrior and was naturally inferior to a Xian master. In addition to the things that happened at the banquet, many people felt that she was shameless and would do anything to climb up the social ladder. She did not care about her reputation at all. Comparing the two, it was tragic. Some people looked at each other quietly and discussed softly. Pfft! If this happened to me, I would regret it to death. That's right. That's a Xian master. Si Ting won first place, and she won second place not long after. Doesn't this mean that her talent is about the same as Si Ting's? After all, Si Ting started cultivating from a young age. This Chu Luiyue seemed to have been bullied in the past few years, right? Even though I don't know how she suddenly became a Xian master genius, things will be different in the future. Keep your voices down. Can't you see how terrible that person's face is? Hey, who can withstand such a difference? Princely mansion. Rong Xiu reclined on the couch. The sun shone through the window, and his long eyelashes cast a shadow under his eyelids. His clean and noble face was clear and pure, as if he was carved by the heavens with the purest ice. Only the crimson color of his thin lips added an indescribable charm to him. He was the only color of spring in this world of ice and snow, the most enchanting of all. Footsteps could be heard outside the door. It was Yan Qing who walked in. Yan Qing bowed and said, "Master, the things you've chosen are ready." Rong Xiu's eyelashes fluttered as he opened his eyes. A glint flashed across his deep eyes. The exam results are out, right? Yes. First young Mistress Chu has passed all 3 examinations and entered Tianlu Academy. Yan Qing's tone was calm, but the waves in her heart had not yet subsided. God knows how shocked he was when he received this news. Although he had already guessed that first young Mistress Chu was not a simple person, he did not expect her to be so capable. Also, first young Mistress Chu took part in the midterm exam. I heard that she came in second place for the Xian Master exam. Rong Xiu raised his brows. Her flamboyant personality is really a headache. Yan Qing glanced at her master, and the corners of her eyes twitched. Headache? Then why are you smiling? You're not even this happy when you encounter your own problems. Yan Qing, what do you want to say? Rong Xiu glanced at her. Yan Qing immediately straightened her body. What this subordinate wants to say is, Master's vision is really excellent. Rong Xiu's slender fingers tapped on the table. After pondering for a moment, he chuckled softly. Since she's having fun, then let her have fun today. We'll double the gifts that we've prepared. Yan Qing asked hesitantly. Then your share. Chapter 55. Chu Luiyue was still unaware of what was happening outside. The moment she received the flag, the fireworks immediately flew up and exploded in mid-air. She raised her brows in surprise. She originally thought that only the first place would receive such treatment, but she didn't expect the second place to be so high profile. She purposely took second place because she didn't want to attract too much trouble. However, this wasn't bad either. At least from now on, no one would be blind enough to casually find trouble with her. "You are Chu Luyue." Chu Luyue turned around and saw a benevolent-looking elder sizing her up. Behind him were two middle-aged men. A small Xian formation floated beside them. She understood that these people were the Xian masters controlling the Xian formation in the forest. She curtsied. "Student Chu Luyue greets the teachers. Elder Sun is one of the 5 great elders of the academy." A middle-aged man couldn't help but remind her. Chu Luyue immediately corrected herself. "Greetings, Elder Sunday." Sun Zhongyan waved his hand and chuckled. "What's so important about this? It's Lu Yu's first time at the academy, so it's normal that she doesn't know about this. I didn't expect the academy to accept another genius like you. No wonder that brat Bai Chen likes you so much. You are indeed very good. That brat, looks like this elder's seniority is really high." She hadn't heard of the 5 great elders before, but they clearly had revered statuses. Chu Luyue thought this in her heart, but she didn't show it on her face. She spoke in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. "Elder Sun is too kind." Seeing her like this, Sun Zhongyan liked her even more. Although she was young, she was very calm and composed. If most students could obtain first or second place in the exam, even if they spoke modestly, their eyes would inevitably carry a hint of pride. However, Chu Luyue's gaze was calm, as if she really didn't care. Either she didn't know what this meant, or she didn't care about the difficulty of the exam at all. "This isn't too much of a compliment. You do have the talent to become a Xian master. If we had discovered it earlier and nurtured it, it would have been a different story today. I don't know what's wrong with the Chu clan, but they actually wasted such a rare genius." If Chu Luyue had not proposed to enter Tianlu Academy, he would have been buried for the rest of his life. The two middle-aged men looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Elder Sun seemed to have a gentle temperament, but in fact, he had extremely high standards. Very few students could enter his eyes. Although Chu Luyue's performance was not bad, wasn't Elder Sun's evaluation a little too high? Chu Luyue smiled. "You think too highly of me. I'm already very happy to be able to study in the academy." Sun Zhongyan stroked his beard and smiled at Si Ting. Citing, "You have to work harder in the future." Si Ting pursed his lips and looked down. Elder Sun is right. It seemed that Elder Sun had also noticed something. This Chu Luyue had most likely conserved his strength during the assessment. "Since the assessment is over, come and take a look at this Xian formation," Elder Sun said as he pointed at the silver Xian formation floating in mid-air. Si Ting and Chu Luyue followed his advice and walked over. This Xian formation was personally set up by Sun Zhongyan, and it was extremely intricate and complicated. If they could see it with their own eyes and understand it, they would naturally benefit greatly. After about an hour, the sound of hurried footsteps could be heard from the forest again. Chu Luyue looked up and smiled. It was Si Yang. At this moment, his hair was messy, and his clothes were stained with blood. It was obvious that he had suffered a little inside. He was very different from his initial high-spirited self. His gaze swept across the row of flags in front of him and realized that there were only 2 empty spots. In other words, there were only 2 people who had arrived before him. He was third. At this thought, a smile finally appeared on his face. He quickly walked over and pulled out the flag. Although the process was very difficult, it was worth it to get this result. Then, he looked up in front of him. In the Xian formation in the forest, he could not hear anything from the outside world, so he did not know who was first and second. When he looked up, he saw a familiar tall figure. It was indeed Si Ting. He turned his gaze and looked to the side. When he saw that beautiful face, he froze on the spot. Congratulations. Chu Luyue clapped his hands and smiled. Third place. Si Yang's mind was a mess and he instinctively asked, "Why are you here?" Chu Luyue blinked. "Because I'm second." "You." Chapter 56. Si Yang felt like he was about to vomit blood. He was too slow. He was in third place. Such a result was something to be proud of, but Chu Luyue was mocking him. But he could not refute it. After all, he was in second place. Even if he did not believe it, Chu Luyue did not have the guts to lie in front of Elder Sun and the others. Thinking about what he said before and comparing the results of the two of them, he felt a burning sensation on his face. When did you come out?" Si Yang held on to his last hope and struggled to ask. If Chu Luyue was only a little faster than him, then it did not count. This girl and Si Ting were less than half an hour apart. She was about an hour earlier than you. Sun Zhongyan smiled. Si Yang was a good kid in other aspects, but he was a little too arrogant and self-righteous. Using Chu Luyue as an excuse, Sun Zhongyan could also teach him a lesson and make him restrain himself. Indeed, after hearing Elder Sun's words, Si Yang's last bit of hope disappeared completely. He lowered his head dejectedly. If there was a crack in the ground, he would have crawled into it immediately. To think that he had provoked Chu Luyue just now. Now, he looked like a joke. Chu Luyue asked. "If you feel that it's a pity that we did not have a real fight today, we can do it another day." Si Yang's heart skipped a beat. He took a closer look at Chu Luyue. Then, he realized to his surprise that Chu Luyue did not have any injuries on his body. This assessment had tortured him greatly, but Chu Luyue did not seem to be affected at all. He gritted his teeth and turned his head away angrily. "No need. I admit that you were better than me in today's round." After saying this, he felt that he had lost all his face. He did not want to stay here any longer. Lu Yu is indeed very talented in this area. You will be classmates in the future. It's always good to help each other and interact more. Sun Zhongyan said. Si Ting finally looked away from the Xian formation. This student will remember Elder Sun's advice. Sun Zhongyan nodded. Then, the announcement of the third place sounded again. This time, it was Si Yang's name. Originally, Si Yang had been looking forward to seeing his name appear in such a manner, but now that it had really happened, he wasn't happy at all. She even felt an inexplicable sense of shame when she thought about being next to Chu Luyue. The other party had quietly taken second place, so what was his third place? He walked behind Si Ting and did not say a word. Occasionally, she could not help but look up at Chu Luyue. He couldn't understand how Chu Luyue, who was ridiculed by everyone in the imperial capital, could suddenly become so powerful. When Chu Luyue looked at him, he quickly looked away and pretended that nothing had happened. Only his ears were getting redder and redder, exposing his guilty conscience and nervousness. After a few times, Chu Luyue finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. "If you have any questions, feel free to ask." This time, not only his ears, but Si Yang's face and neck also turned red. He actually didn't want to say much to Chu Luyue, but he was really too curious. Finally, he couldn't help but ask awkwardly, "That, you? So many people said that you're a loser. Are you pretending?" Chu Luyue raised his eyebrows slightly. When he said this, the others also looked over. In fact, this was also what they wanted to ask. No. Chu Luyue shook his head and gave a straightforward answer. Si Yang leaned forward, but Chu Luyue shut his mouth. It was obvious that he didn't want to explain further. He was a little disappointed, but he also knew that this was someone else's secret, and he had no right to ask. He could only mumble, "I knew it. If you're pretending, why don't you just take first place?" I heard that the first place this year can even meet the envoy from the Tianling dynasty. Chapter 57. Her eyes flickered as she concealed the shock in her eyes. Then, she looked confused. The Tianling dynasty? You don't know? That's right. Your life in the Chu family was so miserable. It's normal that you don't know about such a powerful existence. Only then did Xiyang feel better. At the very least, he knew more about this than Chu Luyue. As a direct descendant of the Xi family, he had only heard of some rumors. However, this was already beyond the reach of ordinary people. Chu Luyue curled her fingers as if she didn't care about Xiyang's words. She smiled and said, "Why? Is the so-called Tianling dynasty very powerful?" "It's more than powerful. It's an existence that the entire country Yaochen looks up to." Then, Xiyang was excited. Just as he was talking excitedly, Si Ting glanced at him. Xiyang. Xiyang became listless and coughed. I know. I shouldn't talk about such things." Chu Luyue was silent for a moment before she asked again, "You said that we can meet their envoy if we get first place in the assessment?" Xiyang glanced at Si Ting carefully. Seeing that he didn't seem to have any objections, he nodded. "Yes. Although we don't have the chance to go to the Tianling dynasty, it's a great opportunity to meet their envoy." As he spoke, he glanced at Chu Luyue and shook his head. "It's pointless for you to ask these questions. This assessment has already ended. You got second place. Anyway, you don't have the chance anymore." Chu Luyue looked down. "You seem to be very concerned about this matter?" Si Ting suddenly asked. He clearly saw from the side that Chu Luyue's entire person seemed to be different after hearing this news. Previously, even when she got second place in the assessment, she was very calm. It was as if she didn't take this matter to heart and was just casually doing it. However, just now, Chu Luyue seemed to be asking casually. However, when she asked, it meant that she was concerned about this matter. According to Xiyang, this is a rare opportunity. It's fine if I didn't know about this before, but now that I know, I naturally want to see it for myself. Chu Luyue looked magnanimous, but there was a hint of regret between his brows. What a pity, she was reborn in country Yaochen, which was very far away from the Tianling dynasty. She originally thought that it would take many years for her to go back and take revenge on those people. However, he had never expected that the people of the Tianling dynasty would come by themselves. Although she didn't know who the so-called envoy was, she could at least find out some information. However, the Tianling dynasty rarely sent envoys to their subordinate countries. At the very least, during the years that she was in power, they had never sent anyone to country Yaochen. What was going on this time? Chu Luyue withdrew his gaze and once again looked at the profound formation in front of him, as if he was still concentrating on studying it. But in reality, her mind was still on the matter of the envoy of the Tianling dynasty. If she missed this opportunity, she didn't know how long she would have to wait to find out more about the Tianling dynasty. Country Yaochen was just an inconspicuous country among the dozens of subordinate countries. The probability of this happening was extremely low. Of course, her current ability wasn't enough to support her revenge, but, if she could find some clues, it might not be a bad thing. It had been a full year since the day she died. She wanted to know what happened after that. Chu Luyue felt as if there were two little people fighting in her heart, making her feel very conflicted. "Big brother, if you see the envoy, you must tell me what he or she is like." Xiyang moved closer to Si Ting with a yearning and envious look. "I heard that everyone there is a top-notch expert. It would be great if I have the chance to go there and take a look in this lifetime." Si Ting smiled. "Work hard. There will be a chance." Xiyang's eyes lit up, and he nodded vigorously. But soon, his face fell. Sigh, but I don't know how long I have to wait. This opportunity only came once in a few decades in country Yaochen. It was very rare. Elder son, I would like to ask you a question. Chu Luiyue suddenly asked. Sun Zhongyan nodded. Go ahead. Does the academy have a rule that a person can only participate in one assessment? Sun Zhongyan shook his head. There isn't. However, there wasn't such an example before. This is because although the assessment is divided into martial warrior, Xian master, and celestial physician, every student has their own specialization. Basically, they will only participate in one of their specialties. He looked at the girl in front of him and suddenly vaguely guessed something. You want to participate in another assessment? Chu Luiyue pursed her lips and smiled, her eyes shining brightly. Elder son is wise. How can this be? You have already participated in the Xian Master assessment. Another teacher blurted out to express his objection. Chu Luiyue looked calm. Teacher, you seem to have forgotten that I just entered the academy today. I haven't chosen any subject yet. Therefore, I am qualified to participate in other assessments, right? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone choked. That's right. Chu Luiyue was admitted to the academy by passing all 3 examinations. In that case, before she decided on what she wanted to study, she could really take part in any examination. But your talent as a Xian master is the best, and you've already obtained 2nd place. Even if you participate in other assessments, you won't be able to obtain better results. Another teacher couldn't help but say. Chu Luiyue was unmoved. We'll only know after we try. You're crazy. Si Yang was stunned for a while before realizing what Chu Luiyue was planning to do. He immediately rushed to her side and shouted anxiously, I admit that you're very talented as a Xian master, but this doesn't mean that you can have any advantages in the martial warrior and celestial physician assessments. Aren't you courting death if you go like this? 2nd place is already very good. Why are you so stubborn? If you get beaten half to death, let's see what face you'll have when you come back. Chu Luiyue looked at him in surprise. This fellow seemed to be worried that she would be bullied. Si Yang's face and neck flushed red. He felt a little guilty under her gaze and raised his voice. Don't let your imagination run wild. Now that everyone knows that you're 2nd place as a Xian master, you're already considered one of us. If you go and embarrass yourself, we'll also be mocked by others. The heavenly doctors didn't say anything, but the martial artists and mystic cultivators had actually been secretly competing with each other. Si Yang had already acknowledged Chu Luiyue as one of them, but seeing her like this, he naturally refused to agree. Chu Luiyue patted his shoulder. Chapter 58. It's finally the finals. Minmin, 1st place is yours, right? Yes. I heard that you broke through again. Show us what you're capable of. The warrior assessment area was more than halfway through and had reached the finals. This group had the most students, about 300 of them. However, only 2 of them were able to pass through all the stages and make it to the finals. Chu Xianmin was one of them. Hearing the praises of the people around her, Chu Xianmin's mood finally improved. She said humbly, I'm sorry. She said humbly, I'm not as powerful as you say. Besides, Gu Mingfeng is very powerful too. I might not be first in this assessment. Gu Mingfeng was the other person who entered the finals. He was also from the Gu family, one of the 4 big families. He's just a bastard. How can he compare to you, Minmin? Said a girl with a snort. If it weren't for his talent, why would the Gu family care about him? In country Yaochen, the hierarchy between the 1st wife and the 2nd wife was very important. Chu Xianmin glanced at Gu Mingfeng from afar and saw that he was looking in her direction. He was actually very good-looking. His facial features were exquisite, as if they were carved by the heavens. However, his amber eyes seemed to have a hint of darkness, which made people shudder. A look of disapproval immediately appeared on her face as she tugged at her. Strength is everything. Yen, don't say such things in the future. The girl called Yen did not notice that Gu Mingfeng was looking in her direction and stuck out her tongue. So what? Does he dare to find trouble with the Lu family's second missy? Although the Lu family could not be compared to the Gu family, she was still the first wife's daughter. Chu Xianmin looked up at Gu Mingfeng but saw that he looked away as if he did not hear her. Of course, Gu Mingfeng heard her. She wanted to do him a favor, but he did not seem to take the bait so easily. Chu Xianmin actually did not like bastards with no status and decided not to think about them. Lu Fian pulled her sleeve and whispered, "Minmin, Chu Xianmin, you're the second runner-up in the assessment. Minmin, Chu Luyue took second place in the Xian Master Assessment. No matter what, you can't be suppressed by her. You must take first place." Chu Xianmin's face stiffened. She was annoyed at Lu Fian for being so tactless and touching her sore spot. She nodded reluctantly. "I know what to do." At this moment, a firework exploded in the distant sky. First place for the 451st Batch Warrior Assessment, Rong Jin. It's the Crown Prince. The first place is indeed him. Lu Fian's eyes brightened, and she hurriedly shook Chu Xianmin's arm. Min, His Highness the Crown Prince is indeed as powerful as the rumors say. I heard that the competition in that year was very intense. He was really amazing to be able to take first place. Chu Xianmin smiled nonchalantly. This is a piece of cake for Brother Jin. Lu Fian was envious and jealous when she heard her calling him so intimately. Hey, Min, His Highness the Crown Prince thinks highly of you. Since the examination is over, will he come to see you? As soon as he finished speaking, even the people around him looked over. Chu Xianmin was a little embarrassed. If it was before, the Crown Prince would definitely come. However, after that banquet, the Crown Prince's attitude towards her had become much colder. He probably wouldn't come. She forced a smile on her face. The assessment over there has just ended. Brother Jin should still be busy and won't have time to come over. Before he could finish, a familiar voice came from nearby. What are you talking about, Min? This is your finals. Of course, I have to come. Chu Xianmin's heart skipped a beat, and she immediately looked up. Crown Prince Rong Jin, who was wearing a purple brocade robe, was walking over. Chu Xianmin was happy and nervous at the same time. He must know that Chu Luyue took second place in the Xian Master Assessment. Why is he here to see me instead of being angry? Rong Jin walked in front of Chu Xianmin with a rare gentleness. He emphasized every word as if he was emphasizing something. Chapter 59. Chu Xianmin immediately guessed Rong Jin's thoughts. He had just broken off his engagement with Chu Luyue, but Chu Luyue was admitted to Tian Lu Academy and even took second place in the Xian Master Assessment. This was equivalent to slapping the Crown Prince in the face. At this time, she could only take first place in the Warrior Assessment and prove that she was stronger than Chu Luyue. Only then could she save some face. This not only concerned her but also the Crown Prince. That was why he rushed over under such circumstances. He wanted to let everyone know that he did not lose anything by giving up Chu Luyue and choosing Chu Xianmin. Don't worry, Brother Jin. I'll do my best. Chu Xianmin knew that this was her chance, so she hurriedly agreed. As long as she performed well today, the Crown Prince would have a way out, and everything else would be easy. Rong Jin nodded in satisfaction. He liked Chu Xianmin's intelligence the most. She knew what to do and what not to do at the right time. Chu Xianmin, Gu Mingfeng, are you ready? The finals are about to start," shouted the teacher in charge of the assessment. Upon hearing this, Chu Xianmin and Gu Mingfeng walked toward an empty space in the middle. The other students had already formed a circle and were waiting for the finals to start. To be able to stand out among hundreds of outstanding students, the two of them naturally had sufficient talent and strength. The finals will determine the final first place. There is no time limit until one side concedes. However, you are not allowed to kill during the competition. Otherwise, you will be disqualified from the competition. The teacher raised his voice and glanced at the two of them. Do you understand? I'll remember. Competition. Start. The atmosphere in the arena suddenly became serious after the teacher gave the order. Please give me your guidance, Chu Xianmin said politely. As soon as she finished speaking, her feet moved and she quickly attacked Gu Mingfeng. A sharp light flashed across Gu Mingfeng's eyes. The two of them fought hand to hand and immediately became a mess. The two of them are about to break through the standards of a stage 4 warrior. I'm afraid it will take some time for the winner to be decided. Some teachers from the academy were watching at the side. They watched the situation in the arena and discussed softly. Chu Xianmin has been fighting steadily, so she must be stronger. She should win this round. I've heard that Gu Mingfeng has also been diligently cultivating recently. It's hard to say who will win. Chu Xianmin and Gu Mingfeng did not have the same teacher, so it was inevitable for them to compare. A teacher chuckled and narrowed his eyes. Actually, I want to take a look at the Xian Master assessment. Hee, old you, there's nothing wrong with you usually, but you like to watch the fun, and that's the worst part. The Xian Master's test is nothing more than Xian formations. You can't even understand them, so what can you do there? I think you probably want to see Chu Luyue, right? Someone at the side mocked. The person who was exposed simply admitted it. Aren't you curious? Previously, everyone said that she was a good-for-nothing, but in the blink of an eye, she became a mystic cultivator. Could it be that the entire Chu clan was blind? Why didn't they discover such a genius? Old you, let's not get involved in the matters of the aristocratic families. At this point, everyone looked at each other and did not say anything else. They quickly changed the topic to Chu Xianmin and Gu Mingfeng's match. 5 minutes had passed, but the two of them were still locked in a fierce battle. Chu Xianmin gradually became anxious. This was because she realized that Gu Mingfeng was stronger than she had imagined. If this continued, the first place would be in jeopardy. She quickly glanced at Rong Jin from the corner of her eye and saw that his face was indeed gloomy. Chu Xianmin secretly gritted her teeth. This can't go on. I have to end this quickly. Chapter 60. Gu Mingfeng raised his sword at the same time. Slash. The two swords met and made a piercing sound. Sparks flew. Chu Xianmin's heart sank. The strength in Gu Mingfeng's sword is stronger than mine. He actually hid his ability just now. Thinking of this, Chu Xianmin panicked even more. No. I can't lose to Gu Mingfeng. I must take first place today. Gu Mingfeng exerted more strength in his wrist, and the long sword pressed down on Chu Xianmin. Chu Xianmin's entire arm was numb, and she could barely hold the sword in her hand. Suddenly, she had an idea and let go. She lowered her body and dodged to the side. Gu Mingfeng thought that she would try again, but he did not expect her to abandon her sword and lose her footing. The long sword in his hand, which was filled with force, missed. It even caused his body to sway. At this moment, Chu Xianmin had already circled to his side. A cold light flashed in her hand. It was a sharp dagger. By the time Gu Mingfeng reacted, the dagger was already in front of him. It was only half an arm's length away from his neck. He subconsciously wanted to turn his long sword around, but it was too late. In a hurry, Gu Mingfeng could only retreat quickly. However, he had already lost his footing just now, and now, he had lost his center of gravity. He looked at Chu Xianmin with a cold gaze. This Chu Xianmin dared to trick me. The anger in his heart burned. Just as he was about to move, he suddenly thought of something. His expression changed slightly, and he hesitated for a moment. No, I can't do it now. In this moment, Chu Xianmin was already in front of him. Gu Mingfeng secretly reduced half of the strength in his leg and kicked Chu Xianmin's wrist. Bang! He actually kicked the dagger in Chu Xianmin's hand away. However, Chu Xianmin was already prepared and immediately lifted her leg. She kicked Gu Mingfeng's heart. With a muffled sound, Gu Mingfeng's body flew backward. Then, he landed heavily on the ground. He left a long mark on the ground. The crowd outside the arena quietened down. An examiner raised his voice and said, Gu Mingfeng has left the arena. Chu Xianmin wins this round. Upon hearing this, the rock in Chu Xianmin's heart finally fell to the ground. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Did Chu Xianmin do that on purpose just now? I think so too. Their strength is about the same. How could she let go of her sword so easily? If not for that, Gu Mingfeng wouldn't have failed. Are you jealous that Chu Xianmin got first place? It's not like everyone doesn't know about her talent and strength. Was there a need to resort to such means? The teachers didn't say anything. But it did look a little strange just now. One of the teachers laughed. A competition is a competition. Sometimes, it's not bad to be a little smarter. There were other teachers who didn't agree, but they didn't say anything in the end. They could clearly see that Chu Xianmin was skirting the boundaries. Even though it wasn't very good, it wasn't a big mistake. When they really fought in the future, the situation they would encounter would be much more dangerous than this. Moreover, Gu Mingfeng seemed to have no intention of competing for first place. Hearing the teacher say so, the doubtful voices in the crowd gradually disappeared. Chu Xianmin walked to Rong Jin and gently exhaled. Luckily, I didn't disappoint Brother Jin. Rong Jin smiled and said, your strength has improved a lot compared to before. It seems like you can break through to become a stage 4 warrior soon. He didn't care about the process. What he wanted was the result. I promised you before that I would give you a reward as long as you came in first. Rong Jin was in a good mood now, and he found Chu Xianmin much more pleasing to the eye. She couldn't be his wife, but she could be his concubine. First place for the 453rd batch of students' warrior assessment. Chu, wait. Before the examiner could finish his announcement, he was suddenly interrupted by a clear female voice. Everyone looked over at the same time, and they were all shocked. Chu Luyue, why are you here? The examiner was a little angry at being interrupted, but his voice became much gentler when he saw that it was Chu Luyue. Chu Luyue smiled and said, my name is Chu Luyue, you're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.